Chapter 60. Actual combat was very important. Especially for ancient martial artists, the concept of saber moves was not something that could be clearly explained or comprehended through comprehension. Even for the tiger slaying saber technique, Lin Feng had only comprehended the true essence of saber intent through blood in the wilderness and unleashed the true power of the saber move. The 7 spinning slash was a yellow-ranked saber move. How could it be comprehended so easily? The third move, Violent Shark Devour. In the high alloy training room, Lin Feng held the Ash Wolf saber in his hand. The first level of the boundless sea of qi surged out, as if he was in a vast sea. The Ash Wolf saber whistled out like an enraged shark, swallowing the entire sea. However, the saber intent was only an illusion. It was like a painting that looked beautiful, but was actually empty. There was no inspiration to speak of. The fourth move, Hidden Dragon Sturgeon. Lin Feng executed the fourth move, 1 hour, 3 hours, 6 hours. There were no shortcuts to increasing one's strength, including the comprehension and practice of saber moves. The saber moves of neo-martial arts focus on the form. To unleash the power of the saber move, one must practice the saber move to perfection. Although it takes a lot of time, it is a path that can clearly see the end. Lin Feng had practiced neo-martial arts for a full 6 years, so he was naturally very clear about the cultivation process. Although it was slow, it was very effective. This was neo-martial arts, which focused on effectiveness. In ancient martial arts, saber intent is the king. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. Ancient martial arts without saber intent were just for show. Compared to neo-martial arts, ancient martial arts paid more attention to the word comprehension. If one comprehended it, the power of the saber move would appear naturally, saving a lot of time. However, it was also possible that 1 or 2 years, or even a lifetime, would not be able to comprehend it. This was a path that could not be seen at the end. Again, one more time, in the training room, Lin Feng's sweat was sprinkled all over. The so-called genius was more hardworking, more focused, and more persistent than others. The reason why Lin Feng bought the second volume of the 7 spinning slash was to gain a better understanding of the 7 spinning slash. He wanted to learn more moves of the 7 spinning slash so that he could gain a better understanding of the saber intent. However, it was still much more difficult than he had imagined. It was normal. Lin Feng was already mentally prepared. Back when he was cultivating the D1 neo-martial art, Meteor, he had spent half a year in the space of consciousness before he could cultivate the form to 100% perfection. He had only practiced the 7 spinning slash for a few days, so how could he comprehend it so quickly? What will happen if I cultivate form first? Lin Feng mused. Just like the saber move Shooting Star, once it is formed, the saber will be contained in it bit by bit. Perhaps it will be easier to push the whole thing from a single point. Lin Feng fell in a deep thought. If it were any other student, their first reaction upon encountering a problem would be to seek guidance from an instructor, but Lin Feng, he had been used to relying on himself since he was young. Lin Feng was in seclusion. However, the battle arena, no, the entire Zhan College was in an uproar. I say, Li Tong, aren't you being very unkind? Yu Meng raised her eyebrows and looked at a smiling man in a green shirt. Li Tong, one of the 3 senior instructors of Zhan College. Yu Meng was in charge of the Geno Warrior Division, while Li Tong was in charge of the Ancient Warrior Division. Compared to Yu Meng's violent temper, Li Tong's personality was much more amiable, and he was very friendly to the students. I don't know who Instructor Yu is referring to, Li Tong said softly. Don't give me that. Yu Meng's beautiful eyes flashed. Tell me, who is Sun Zhan? Li Tong rolled his eyes and smiled kindly. Instructor Yu, how would I know? You don't know. Yu Meng's tall figure approached Li Tong step by step. Li Tong's mouth trembled as he stepped back slightly. He was a little overwhelmed. Speak, Yu Meng shouted. Li Tong swallowed his saliva when he saw her perky breasts. Yu Jia, I really don't know. Li Tong squeezed out a smile, but in Yu Meng's eyes, it seemed to be filled with pride. Yu Meng squinted her eyes and smiled. You're really something, Li Tong. I didn't expect this batch of ancient warriors to be so full of hidden talents. Looks like this is your secret weapon for the preliminaries in 2 months. Very good. I'll wait and see. She emphasized the last few words. Yu Ming snorted softly and left. Li Tong wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and shook his head with a bitter smile. Sun Jian? He also wanted to know who Sun Jian was. This bunch of brats. Who is Sun Jian? Li Tong muttered to himself. Lu Kai? Doesn't look like it. He uses a sword. Murong Fanio, there's no reason for her to dress up as a man, right? Li Tong couldn't figure it out. He felt his head swell. Level 4 War Star. Doesn't that mean she's a beginner ancient warrior general? Is there such a strong person among the 102nd batch of ancient warriors? Why don't I know? Area S, the center of the college base. A red-haired man wearing a battle suit and holding a dragon-tooth saber was practicing with his saber. Lightning flashed and blood filled the air. Every slash was filled with a murderous aura. It was like a decisive battle on the battlefield. Whoosh, whoosh. The sharp sound caused the air to vibrate. Li Tong stood respectfully at the side. He lowered his head slightly and waited quietly. Boom! The saber that was filled with battle intent shattered the alloy plate in front of it. The sound was like a thunderclap. The red-haired man's body seemed to be emitting a blood-red heat. He slowly put away his saber and exhaled softly. I heard that there's a good seedling in the ancient warrior branch this year. His voice was very calm. It had a magnetic quality to it, but it was as solid as a mountain rock. It was as immovable as his body. Brother Lei, I'm not sure. Li Tong's face was filled with worry. He really didn't know. After being interrogated by Yu Ming, he knew that this was no small matter. The college didn't place much importance on the students in Area A, but the students in Area S were very important. Then, he carefully interrogated them one by one. In the end, he still didn't get anything. As soon as the interrogation was over, he was summoned to see the old man. And the one who summoned him wasn't the dean, but the inspector of Qinhuang region. He was a big shot directly under the supervisor of Qinhuang region. The red-haired man turned his head. His eyes were shining brightly. Li Tong instantly felt a strong pressure. He lowered his head and said, Give me some time, Brother Lei. I'll do my best to find out who this Sun Jian is. He didn't sound very confident, but Li Tong still had to bite the bullet. This Brother Lei was an unreasonable person. Go. The red-haired man, Lei Gang, turned his head and didn't look at Li Tong anymore. The latter let out a long sigh of relief and left. In the huge center of the base, only Lei Gang was left. The dragon-tooth saber in his hand was shining brightly. Long Qin, a second-grade genius. Jin Haochen and Xia Ling, third-grade geniuses. This Sun Jian should also be a third-grade genius. Seems like the students in Sunset City are of good quality. Although they can't be compared to the first-grade genius emperor from Elite Crown Academy, it's still acceptable. Chapter 61. Sun Jian. Who is Sun Jian? This had already become the biggest mystery in the battle arena. In less than 7 days, Sun Jian had reached level 3 of the Battle Star level and level 4 of the Battle Star level in less than a month. He had even defeated 3 beginner warrior generals in a row, creating an astonishing record of 160 wins and 0 losses. However, all of a sudden, he disappeared. Like a ghost, he disappeared silently from the battle world. Do you think Sun Jian is a ghost in the battle world? I think so. Don't many transmigration novels have this plot? The body dies, but the soul consciousness stays in the virtual network. Stupid river god. Don't scare people, okay? Otherwise, how do you explain this level 4 Battlestar level powerhouse that appeared out of thin air? I heard that in the past half a month, Instructor Li Tong from the next branch has turned the ancient warrior branch upside down, and he can't even find half a hair of Sun Jian. Sun Jian had disappeared from the battle arena for half a month. Ever since he defeated 3 beginner warrior generals in a row, Sun Jian suddenly disappeared without any warning. Even so, the battle arena still had the legend of Sun Jian. There was even a secondary account with the name Sun Jian. Its appearance and body were said to be exactly the same as Sun Jian. Unfortunately, the name and appearance could be imitated, but the strength The difference was like heaven and earth. Sun Jian was already a legend, but Lin Feng was living in the real world. In the past half a month, Lin Feng had not taken half a step out of the dormitory, except to pick up his sister at the end of the month and meet with his mother, let alone enter the battle arena. Other than soaking in the gene fluid and absorbing the energy of heaven and earth, the rest of the day was immersed in the space of consciousness. It was not to practice neo-martial arts, but paleo-martial arts. The first move, Evil Dragon Entanglement. Lin Feng's figure was exactly the same as the figure simulated by the superbrain, as if he was looking into a mirror. He constantly simulated the first 4 moves of the 7 spinning slash, especially the first move, Evil Dragon Entanglement, because Lin Feng believed that the first move would be the easiest to comprehend. It was very bitter, very stuffy, and even very boring. But Lin Feng was like a machine, constantly practicing the saber, one move and another move, striving for perfection, even the slightest bit. Form. What was the point of practicing paleo martial arts with neo martial arts? Lin Feng didn't know. However, if he didn't try, how would he know if he would succeed? Since neo martial art meteor can be converted into paleo martial art, why can't paleo martial art be converted into neo martial art? Just as his mother, Ji Ruhua, had said, Lin Feng's heart was very stubborn. He was soft on the outside, but firm on the inside. His personality of never giving up was like a foolish old man moving a mountain. If other ancient martial artists saw Lin Feng practicing his saber like this, they would definitely laugh their heads off. However, most of the time, many things that seemed impossible were only because no one had tried. Evil Dragon Coil. Again. One more time. How many times? 10,000 times? 100,000 times? Or 1,000,000 times? After swinging his saber countless times, Lin Feng demanded perfection. He knew that if his form was perfect, he would definitely be able to sense the existence of saber will. The so-called neo-martial arts were just condensing saber will into every movement and every detail. It was as precise as the operation of a superbrain. What was meant to come would come. Infinite sea of qi. Lin Feng closed his eyes and deeply felt the majesty of the sea. The ash wolf saber in his hand was swung out. It was like the surging waves of the sea, forming a ferocious dragon that went straight for the sky. In an instant, Lin Feng's eyes opened. They shone brightly. With a swing of the saber, the entire space of consciousness was shattered. Saber move, success. Strike while the iron is hot. Lin Feng clearly understood what was going on. The concept of saber moves was divided into beginner, proficient, and perfect. The success of the saber move did not mean that it had reached the strongest power. To be precise, Lin Feng was only at the beginner level of the saber move. To truly master it perfectly was far from a day and a half. But at least compared to the past, when he was confused like a blind man crossing a river, now, the path was completely clear. All that was left was to practice. Understand. Practice again. Understand again. The legend of Sun Jian was still circulating in the battle arena. However, it had gradually begun to be forgotten. After all, Sun Jian had disappeared for more than a month. Even the senior instructor, Li Tong, had given up. The day of the qualifiers on April 1st was getting closer and closer. The battle arena was also becoming more and more lively. The so-called powerhouse effect, the appearance of many level 4 combatants, naturally caused the number of students to increase. The number of permanent students exceeded 300, and at peak times, it could reach 400. Lost again. Isn't it normal to lose? Do you still want to win against the geniuses of Area S? How can this Jin Haochen be so strong? He has already defeated so many level 4 combatants of Area. How many is it? Who knows? There are at least a dozen level 4 combatants who have lost to him. With Jin Haochen's strength, it shouldn't be a problem for him to rise to level 5. Looks like Jin Haochen is determined to win this academy's qualifiers. Setting up the arena. The number 1 Jin battler of the 101st batch, Jin Haochen. He was rather arrogant, but he did have the qualifications to be arrogant. Even though they were all level 4 combatants, there was still a difference in strength. Jean Houchin's strength could be seen from his battle record. Defeating a dozen level 4 combatants in a row was enough to prove everything. "Aren't you going to challenge him?" Guo Li asked. "I'm not his match." Gu Yi's voice had a hint of helplessness. Guo Li said, "He's improving very quickly. Half a year ago, we were evenly matched, but now, I'm afraid even I will lose to him." Gu Yi sighed. "My elemental heart's grade is too far from his. As a Jean battler, my combat boots are incomparable to his. Most importantly, even if we ignore these external factors, just in terms of mastery of elemental martial arts, I have already completely lost to him. He has already mastered the first stage of the nickel domain, and I still haven't been able to form my potassium pool. Elemental martial arts." Guo Li muttered, his eyes filled with envy. Elemental martial arts were the true Neo martial arts. He was currently slightly stronger than Gu Yi, but as long as Gu Yi mastered the first stage of the potassium pool, he would be the one to lose. "No one dares to challenge me." Gu Yi's smile was somewhat bitter. Seeing his opponent's strength far surpass his, that feeling was not only disappointment, but also despair. "It's about time." Guo Li nodded. Gu Yi responded, then suddenly asked, "All right, senior brother, the person you're looking for, Lin Feng, have you found him?" "No, it's like he disappeared from the face of the earth. Not only our Sunset Dojo, but the 4 major martial arts societies are also looking for him. They almost turned the entire Sunset City upside down." Guo Li shrugged. "Although we've received a lot of news, it's too hard to tell if it's real or fake." "Disappeared from the face of the earth?" Gu Yi was startled, then laughed. "Speaking of which, someone in the battle arena also disappeared from the face of the earth. It's been more than a month. I think it's called Battle or something." Guo Li muttered. "I've heard of it. And then what's wrong?" "There, another person who isn't afraid of death challenged Jean Houchin." Gu Yi laughed. "Really?" Guo Li immediately opened the battle space. "Oh, level 4 battle star. What's his name again?" "Seeking Battle?" What a familiar name. He looked at Gu Yi beside him. The latter's eyes were wide open, as if he was suffocating, his body petrified. Seeking Battle. Chapter 62. It seems that someone is challenging Jean Houchin again. Who is it? So stupid. Isn't this giving away battle points for others to spend? Well, let me see. It's called Sun Jian. Sun Jian? Are you kidding me? F*CK. Is this for real? Is this a fake name? Damn, I'm not dreaming. It's really my idol. My idol is back. Sun Jian? It was really the legendary Sun Jian. Boom. The entire arena was in an uproar. The name could be fake, but what about the record? The amazing record of 160 wins and 0 losses was dazzling. No one expected that Sun Jian, who had disappeared for more than a month, would appear again. It's Sun Jian. Wow, it's the real person. It's so exciting. Sun Jian against Jean Houchin. He's worthy of being my idol. He has the guts to challenge the strongest one. Especially the students of the ancient martial arts branch, their blood was boiling. They had been suppressed by the Geno warriors. Especially today, Jean Houchin had set up the arena to embarrass the ancient martial arts branch. 8 out of 10 challengers were from the ancient martial arts branch, but without exception, they were all killed mercilessly. Jean Houchin was too strong. The C3 elemental martial art, nickel domain, was terrifyingly strong. But now he was back. The super legend of the ancient martial arts branch finally appeared in the arena after more than a month. Go, Sun Jian. I love you. You must defeat Jean Houchin. Quick, the duel is about to start. The students crazily squeezed in, afraid that they would miss out on the exciting part. This was definitely the battle of the century. T-Zone, instructor's dormitory. Beep beep, the crystal watch vibrated. Yu Meng, who had just stepped into the room, glanced at it and clicked on the message. In an instant, her beautiful eyes flashed. Her perky breasts rose and fell slightly. She entered the entertainment room at lightning speed. Inside the battle world. Brother Lei, you can't blame me for this. That's Sun Jian. No, it's a little too quibbling. Li Tong sat on the sofa and muttered to himself. Brother Lei, we've already done our best, and search the entire school, but that's not right. It doesn't seem right to use we. With an ugly expression, Li Tong felt his head ache when he thought about how he had to report to the investigator, Lei Gang, a few days later. How could he be so unlucky to be assigned such a difficult task? This Sun Jian seemed to be going against him. When he wanted to find him, he couldn't even see a ghost. Sigh. Li Tong sighed helplessly. Suddenly, the crystal watch vibrated. Li Tong muttered as he opened it. In an instant, Pa. With his eyes wide open, Li Tong's mouth formed an O shape. Sun Jian has appeared. It's true. Li Tong abruptly jumped up. In a split second, he ran like a whirlwind to the entertainment room. Rush in. All of them poured in. 400,500,600. The number of people in the arena kept increasing. Not only did it exceed 500, but it also exceeded 600. That was already half of the total number of students in the entire combat college. At this time, Lin Feng and Jin Haochen had already taken their places in the combat space. The latter's eyes were filled with arrogance and contempt. Sun Jian, the legend of the arena? Jin Haochen smiled indifferently. He was wearing AC-1 Geno armor and boots. On his left and right wrist guards were small nickel series magnetic guns. Today is the day that the legend will be destroyed. Buzz, buzz, the power of nickel instantly gathered. The small nickel series magnetic guns on Jin Haochen's wrist guards shone brightly. Boom, boom. Two beams of light with astonishing radiance instantly exploded. Like mini cannonballs, they blasted toward the other side of the arena. C3 nickel heart, electromagnetism. Nickel power, Lin Feng instantly judged. In fact, when he saw the two small nickel series magnetic guns on Jin Haochen's wrist guards, he had already guessed his elemental heart. Compared to the light element, the magnetic element's long-distance attack speed was inferior. However, its power was several times that of the light element. In the adventure team, Geno warriors who could skillfully operate electromagnetic cannons were one of the most popular members. Boundless Sea of Qi, Level 1. Lin Feng was not careless. Behind him, surging waves flashed like shadows. Lin Feng's body was like a small fish swimming forward. He seemed to be drifting in the wind and rain, but he was borrowing the force of the sea. His body lowered, and two magnetic bullets passed over his head. The sound of the bullets piercing through the air could even deafen one's ears. If one was hit by the magnetic bullets head-on, even if they did not die, they would be seriously injured. Body movement, small fish swim. Within the battle martial arts space, it was packed with people. From time to time, shadows flashed, coming to watch the competition between the strong, especially to witness the existence of Sun Jian. In the arena, there was an undefeated legend. Isn't this the Yellow Level Heart Sutra, Boundless Sea of Qi? The shadow waves are 3 meters tall. It should be level 1. There's also a body movement technique, small fish swim. I know. No wonder Sun Jian disappeared for more than a month. He must have earned enough points to go into seclusion to cultivate a new Heart Sutra and body movement technique. Sun Jian was already scary enough. After learning the Yellow Level Heart Sutra and body movement technique, wouldn't Sun Jian's strength be? Everyone was shocked. At this moment, the battle had officially reached its climax. Look, Jin Haochen is using his ultimate move. Elemental martial art, Nickel Domain. It's too scary. Most of the senior brothers have been defeated by his invincible move. This is the strength of a Geno warrior. Nickel Domain. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He felt a little uncomfortable. His body felt sticky and sucking, and he could not move as he wished. Moreover, the closer he was to the center of Jin Haochen's magnetic field, the more he was restrained. He might be able to restrain it with a stronger elemental power, but the energy of heaven and earth could not. Elemental martial art. It's only level 1. It doesn't even have any special abilities, but it's already so amazing. Nickel Domain, huh? Lin Feng was tempted. His right foot stomped on the ground, and his speed increased by 1 point. Restricted movement? More than a month ago, his speed had already reached the level of a beginner ancient warrior. But now, he was already at the level of an intermediate ancient warrior. On the other side, Jin Haochen's expression changed slightly. At the same level, a Geno warrior's physical fitness was not as good as an ancient warrior's. However, in the nickel domain, Gene Houchin could perfectly suppress his opponent. Ancient warriors valued their bodies the most. If they could not exert their strongest advantage, they would be at his mercy. But this time so fast. Gene Houchin frowned. Why doesn't the nickel domain affect him? There was no time to think too much. In an instant, a magnetic halberd that emitted a silver light appeared in his hand. The crescent-shaped nickel plates on both sides emitted a bright light, triggering the magnetic pole power of the nickel domain. It gathered on the tip of the halberd like surging lightning currents. D4 Neo martial art, falling thunder 100%. Gene Houchin exploded. The activation of the magnetic pole power bound the surrounding space. The strength of the nickel domain was not only in its weakening, but also in its control. In a situation where the strength of both parties was almost the same, the nickel domain did indeed have the overbearing ability to reverse the situation. However, when there was a huge difference in their strength, no matter how outstanding the nickel domain was, it could only allow Gene Houchin to withstand one more move. Indeed, it was only one move. 7 spinning slash, evil dragon entanglement. The gray wolf war blade swung out like a dragon's roar. The surging energy brought by the boundless energy sea rose into the sky, crushing the lightning magnetic pole energy. The first move, which was filled with blade intent, directly broke Gene Houchin's magnetic halberd. Gene Houchin grunted and retreated. He gritted his teeth and immediately unleashed the power of the nickel domain to the extreme. The pressure increased again. However, it could not stop Lin Feng's attack. The gray wolf war blade stood upright in the sea, and the surging waves swept everything away. That was the terror of nature, and it was Lin Feng's true strength. He was only a hair's breadth away from 20% mind expanse. Boom! The huge wave was like a dragon, instantly shattering Gene Houchin and his nickel domain. The battle arena shook violently. Chapter 63. It's over? All of them stared at each other as they stared at the empty battle arena. What happened to the battle of the century? In the blink of an eye, the outcome had been decided? What a joke. Gene Houchin was a little too weak. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Gene Houchin lost just like that? Another beating. F***, this is too boring. I haven't seen enough. In the battle space, everyone regained their senses. Who was Gene Houchin? He was the famous genius of the 101st batch of the Geno warrior branch. Gene Houchin in the 101st batch was equivalent to Long Qin in the 102nd batch. He was an 18-year-old super genius and the strongest person in this year's internal selection. He had lost so cleanly and cleanly, from head to toe. Not a single hair on Sun Jian's body was hurt. What's going on? Where is he? Hasn't the battle started yet? Why can't I see anyone? Where is Sun Jian? Could it be fake again? Students kept pouring in. The battle space was empty. Only the students who were discussing and watching the replay were left. All of them were shocked. In less than 10 seconds, Gene Houchin, who had set up the arena for an entire night and defeated more than 10 level 4 war stars in a row, he was defeated in an instant. God, it's over? A figure entered the battle space. It was Yu Ming's secondary account, Lemon. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. As the person in charge of the Geno warrior branch, Yu Ming knew how strong Gene Houchin was. He had mastered the elemental martial art, nickel domain. Although his halberd technique was only at stage 2 mastery, he was definitely one of the best among the beginner Geno warriors with his domineering elemental power. He actually lost to Sun Jian. Yu Ming's eyes flashed. She did the same thing as the other students who came later. Watching the replay of the battle. First level of the boundless sea of Qi. Little fish swim. What? The first move of the 7 spinning slash, evil dragon bind, saber intent. Proficient. Li Tong's eyes widened in shock. He was also a step late and was watching the replay of the battle. However, unlike the other students, Li Tong's eyes were unusually sharp, and he felt it the most. Because what he cultivated was also the boundless sea of Qi. I remember, Sun Jian didn't learn the boundless sea of Qi before. Li Tong's expression was grave, and his heart was in turmoil. That's right. The last time Sun Jian entered the arena, he had just advanced to level 4 battle star. So, he has been in seclusion for the past month or so. But just 1 month. Li Tong's breathing quickened as his expression changed drastically. In just 1 month, he was able to use the first layer of the boundless sea of qi to such a high degree of proficiency. His movement technique was perfectly integrated with the small fish swim. Most importantly, the first move of the 7 spinning slash, blade intent mastery? It couldn't be right. Li Tong was completely dumbfounded. Li Tong wasn't the only one who was stunned. Jin Haochen stood there in a daze. He had yet to recover from his shock. He didn't even know how he had lost. It felt as if, in an instant, the surging waves had already crushed him. The nickel domain that he was so proud of couldn't even stop the battle at all. What's going on? Naturally, Jin Haochen didn't know. Lin Feng's current physique was freakish to such an extent. When he was a primary level ancient warrior, Lin Feng's physical fitness index was comparable to that of an advanced level ancient warrior. Now, Lin Feng's mind expanse was close to that of an advanced level ancient warrior. After nearly 2 months of hard work, his physical fitness index had already risen to the level of an intermediate level ancient warrior. Weakened? Even if he was weakened by 1 level, he was still a primary level ancient warrior. He was naturally much stronger than Jin Haochen. Furthermore, Lin Feng was only using heaven and earth energy. Damn it, Jin Haochen gritted his teeth. Staying in Area S, he was a dragon among men. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? His arrogant face was filled with anger, and his eyes revealed his stubbornness and unwillingness to admit defeat. Jin Haochen once again challenged Sun Jian, who had a record of 161 wins and 0 losses. However, he failed, because Sun Jian had already started a new round of challenges. The battle began. After more than a month, Lin Feng entered the arena once again. Firstly, he was almost out of battle points. Secondly, he was completely out of basic gene fluid. Thirdly, his comprehension of the saber technique had reached a bottleneck. Lin Feng yearned to use battle to break through the concept of the 7 spinning slash. He had already comprehended the first 2 moves, Evil Dragon Bind and Flying Fish Spin, to proficiency. He was only 1 step away from perfection, and it was still difficult to break through. Compared to carefully pondering by himself, it was better to enter the arena and fight. The chances of breaking through would be higher. Moreover, he could also earn some battle points. 163 wins, 165 wins, 167 wins. Lin Feng's battle results continued to improve. Many level 4 Warstar generals were also happy to spar with the legendary Sun Jian. This was especially so for ancient warriors. They yearned to comprehend something that they could not normally comprehend from an expert of the same level. There was nothing more profound than experiencing a battle. Moreover, the price of sparring with Sun Jian was not high. 20 battle points per round. Lin Feng was not greedy. Sand could form a tower. Moreover, he could compete with more level for Warstar experts and hone his saber technique. He enjoyed it very much. In less than half an hour, Lin Feng refreshed his record to 180 wins. 20 consecutive wins. A net gain of 400 battle points. Today, there are so many people. After 20 consecutive rounds of sparring, Lin Feng rested for a while. Only now did he see the densely packed figures in the arena. He did not know that some of them were here for him. In fact, Lin Feng knew nothing about the sensation caused by the name Sun Jian. Staying in the dormitory every day, Lin Feng did nothing but cultivate. Naturally, he did not receive any news from the academy. Just like how Lin Feng did not know that the Sunset Dojo and the 4 major martial arts sects had almost turned the entire Sunset City upside down in order to find him. To the current Lin Feng, he only cared about 3 things: family, strength, and money. You refuse to talk? I can't add you as a friend either. Li Tong was a little dumbfounded. What should he do? Unlike Yu Meng, who often came to the arena to pass the time, Li Tong basically did not come to the arena. He was still using his previous secondary account, Warstar Level 1, serial number 099303, Wooden Bucket. Seeing that Sun Jian was right in front of him, he was only a short distance away from the mission that Brother Lei had given him. However, it was right in front of him, yet it was far away. Setting up a secondary account was to hide one's identity. Why would Lin Feng use this to make friends? In fact, he only had one friend on his primary account, Tao Jing. To Lin Feng, the purpose of the arena was to earn battle points and sharpen one's combat strength. It was that simple. Everything else was meaningless. Phew! Lin Feng rested for a few minutes and then clenched his fists. Since it was a battle, he had to adjust his mental state to the best possible state, no matter who the opponent was. Once I've earned 300 battle points, I'll leave. Lin Feng was not greedy. He opened the arena's online list. His gaze skipped over the Warstar Level 4 experts who had already challenged him and then landed on a somewhat strange name. Mengyu, serial number 098222. Lin Feng was thoughtful. He opened the information. It was a skinny young man about 175 meters tall, with clear and handsome facial features. He looks a little like Mentor Yumeng. Lin Feng smiled. Let's choose him. Chapter 64. Level 4 Warstar, serial number 102255. Sun Jian challenges you. The bet is 20 battle points. Do you accept? Yumeng looked at the message that suddenly popped up and was stunned. Sun Jian actually challenged her. Ha! 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 Yumeng's face had a devilish smile, as if a little lamb had come to her door. Yumeng's eyes flashed, and she pressed the accept button without hesitation. She also wanted to see, was this Sun Jian a human or a ghost? Wow, Sun Jian is challenging again. It's true. Let's go in and see. His opponent is Lemon? Level 4 Warstar? Who is it? Why haven't I heard of this name before? What a sissy name. Who's this guy? He's from a 98 class. There was a lot of discussion. All the students rushed in and instantly entered the space. Some of them were here to watch the show, some wanted to see the real face of Lu Shan, and some wanted to learn humbly. The other spaces were empty, and only Sun Jian's was there. The students naturally did not know Yu Meng's secondary account, but there was one person who knew very well. Li Tong was dumbfounded as he looked at the two people fighting in the space. How could he not know Yu Meng's account? He had been beaten by Yu Meng in the arena. Although they were both advanced warriors, Yu Meng's strength was obviously higher than his. She was a violent demoness. Her nickname was Violent Lemon. Yu Meng's strength was comparable to a beginner Geno battle sage. The two lights looked at each other from afar. Lin Feng looked at the opponent in front of him, Lemon. She was thin, but had an indescribable temperament. The gray wolf broadsword in his hand clanged. They had met. Lin Feng's intuition told him that the opponent in front of him was different from the ones he had challenged before. That calmness came from the depths of her heart. It came from absolute confidence in her own strength. Pa! As a dazzling white light appeared, Lemon's arms suddenly crystallized, completely covering the Geno armor's bracers. His originally thin and weak arm instantly swelled to twice its original size, flickering with crystal light. Cobalt power? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The C-grade elemental heart was ranked third among the C-grade elemental hearts. It was known as the strongest strengthening type elemental heart. The elemental heart could not be artificially synthesized by elemental technology above grade B. It's actually a strengthening type. Lin Feng didn't expect that this weak-looking opponent in front of him would actually fuse with a strengthening type elemental heart. At first, he thought that he would fuse with the electromagnetism or the light core. Chi! A saber made of light appeared, and the momentum changed. Great mascot blade. Lin Feng's heart trembled. The blade was covered with all kinds of patterns, like moving clouds and flowing water. It was exceptionally beautiful. The type of saber that he wanted the most was the Great Mass Skeleton Saber. It had both strength and speed. No matter if it was the curve of the blade, the length, or the thickness, they were all excellent. In the previous era, the Great Ma Smith knife was definitely one of the top 3 famous knives. A strong opponent. Just from the feeling of holding the saber, Lin Feng knew that his opponent's saber technique was at the 3rd level, because they were both on the same level. Good. Lin Feng's lips curled up unconsciously. His boundless sea of qi flowed instantly, and the waves behind him surged. At this moment, Lin Feng's heart was completely focused on the battle. Meeting a worthy opponent made him feel extremely refreshed. Every cell in his body seemed to be boiling. Fight to your heart's content. Lemon is probably going to lose. It's hard to say. After all, it's the strongest civilian strengthening type elemental heart. It depends on their saber techniques, and whether Lemon has mastered the elemental martial art blood dissolving cobalt. What's the use of mastering it? Didn't Jin Haochen master the first level of the nickel domain? He's still going to be beaten up. Hearing the voices beside him, Li Tong couldn't help but smile bitterly. Comparing Jin Haochen's nickel domain with Yu Meng's blood dissolving cobalt, that was overestimating him. Yu Meng beat Jin Haochen 9 times over in terms of elemental power. It's too bad. Li Tong didn't dare to watch. I wonder if this violent lemon will show her ultimate move? I'm afraid she doesn't have the ability to seek a battle. Violent lemon. Lin Feng naturally didn't know Mentor Yu Meng's nickname. Including the other students, they were far from that level of strength. In their eyes, Mentor Yu Meng was just a sexy and beautiful teacher with a hot body. Swoosh! Lin Feng shot out. The one who attacked first was Lin Feng. Yu Meng naturally wouldn't take advantage of the students. Cobalt power. Her arms were already covered in crystals. Yu Meng's use of cobalt power had reached the 3rd level of crystallization. It was like an ancient martial artist's heart sutra. The higher the quality of the heart sutra, the more heaven and earth energy one could control when using it. It was the same for elemental power. Moreover, the use of elemental power was related to the cultivation of elemental martial arts. Jin Haochen was only at the intermediate level of the 2nd level, while Yu Meng was at the advanced level of the 3rd level. She was comparable to a Geno battle supremacy. Boom! The two of them instantly exchanged blows. Like thunder, Lin Feng let out a muffled groan and instantly retreated with a shocked expression. Lost? He had actually lost to his opponent in terms of strength? To Lin Feng, it was indeed astonishing. After activating his strength, his mind expanse was close to 20%. His strength was already capable of unleashing its true might. Although his physical fitness index was at the level of an intermediate ancient martial general, his strength was definitely at the level of an advanced ancient martial general. However, what terrifying strength! Yu Meng's lightsaber was condensed with a strong cobalt energy. Her crystallized arms were exceptionally strong. Yu Meng's eyes were shining brightly. On the contrary, Lin Feng was at a disadvantage. In the battle martial arts space, all the students were dumbfounded. Where did this monster come from? Sucking in a breath of cold air, Li Tong was stupefied. Unlike the other students who were shocked by Yu Meng's strength, what shocked him was not Yu Meng, but Sun Jian's terrifying physical fitness. This guy, in the previous battle, he had been hiding his strength. His physical index is at least a mid-level ancient warrior. Li Tong swallowed his saliva in shock. His strength has reached the level of a high-level ancient martial general. Monster! Who was the monster? To the other students, Yu Meng was definitely a monster. However, to Yu Meng and Li Tong, Sun Jian was the real monster. Is he really a student of this batch? Although Yu Meng had the upper hand, she was still shocked. Sun Jian's strength had far exceeded her expectations. Although she was currently suppressing him, Sun Jian's strength was actually not much inferior to hers. Especially, his saber technique realm was even higher than hers. Their speed was almost the same. However, Sun Jian's movement technique was as agile as a small fish in the sea. She could not unleash 100% of her attack power. Interesting. I want to see. Who exactly are you, little monster? Yu Meng's eyes were shining brightly. The cobalt energy instantly circulated throughout her body. Her blood seemed to be burning. Yu Meng's face and skin turned red. Her body emitted waves of red light. It was extremely strange. Elemental martial art, blood cobalt. Chapter 65. Cobalt could stimulate the human skeleton's hematopoietic system. The neo-martial art, blood cobalt, was to unleash the purest ability of the Cobalt Heart. The Cobalt Heart was known as the strongest civilian strengthening type. It was not an undeserved reputation. Although it could not be compared to the rare B-grade elemental heart, it was definitely one of the most favored C-grade elemental hearts. Its effects were also unparalleled, all-round super strengthening. The accelerated circulation of blood, the crazy synthesis of hemoglobin, the rapid increase in the number of cells, and the explosive power of cobalt. Swoosh! Yu Meng left behind an afterimage, her speed multiplied. A beam of light slashed across the sky, bringing with it a terrifying pressure. The saber aura swept across, cutting off the surrounding space. At this moment, if Lin Feng continued to hide his strength, he would not be able to block one move, let alone three. The terrifying saber aura was like a mountain pressing down on him. The terrifying power was more than multiplied. Spirit Chi. Lin Feng's gray wolf saber left afterimages. With the operation of his boundless sea of energy, he stood still in the middle of the vast sea. At this moment, the waves behind him turned into reality. The sound of the tsunami was like thunder, bringing about Lin Feng's real first slash, 7 spinning slash, the first move. Evil Dragon Entanglement. With a deep shout, the monstrous waves rolled up like a tornado, breaking from the bottom to the top. The waves were extremely fierce. Lin Feng's eyes shone, and his saber intent was powerful. This was the first time he used the power of an expert. Boom! They were evenly matched. Flying fish spin. Lin Feng took advantage of the situation to pursue. Since he had used his spirit chi, there was no room for retreat. Unlike heaven and earth energy, although his spirit chi had increased a lot in the past 2 months, it was still a drop in the bucket. He had to end the battle quickly. Swoosh! Gray Wolf Saber aura cut across the sky. Saber Technique Realm, Peak 3rd Realm. They were stunned. The soul-stirring battle made the students unable to breathe. It was not just 4 levels higher than a War Star. Even a War Star at level 5 or level 6 might not be at this level. The students were not only shocked by Sun Jian's strength, but also by Lemon's identity. The two were definitely at level 6. Lemon, Cobalt Heart, high-class Geno Warrior? Wait, could she be Minna Yu Meng? It's very possible. Look at Lemon's appearance. She looks a lot like Minter Yu Meng. Their height, arms, and even the width of their waist and legs are exactly the same. Based on my years of admiration for Minter Yu Meng, this is definitely Minter Yu Meng. No wonder. But Sun Jian was able to tie with Minter Yu Meng? Who is he? Who is he? Everyone was stunned. Everyone, including Li Tong, was curious about Sun Jian's identity. But at this moment, he was staring at the arena, his fingernails digging deep into his palms. There was only this battle in his eyes. Who lost and who won? At a disadvantage. Yu Meng did not expect that she would be at a disadvantage after unleashing her ultimate move. At that moment, Yu Meng was truly enraged. She felt that she was being looked down upon. Blood Transformation Cobalt, 2nd level. Yu Meng revealed her final trump card. The reason Yu Meng was called Violent Lemon was because her elemental skills had reached the 2nd tier. Only a Geno Battle Saint could have such a strong power. Sigh. Her body seemed to be smoking. Yu Meng's face became blurry, as if a flame was burning. Red light covered her body, and her skin had already turned blood red. She moved quickly, like light and shadow. The red shadow formed a staggered frame like a movie. Before she arrived, the saber aura arrived first. What a terrifying speed. Lin Feng felt a huge force coming at him like a truck. His chest felt like it had been struck by lightning. The opponent in front of him suddenly became several times stronger. His right hand exploded. Lin Feng grabbed the gray wolf saber tightly and retreated while vomiting blood. He used all his strength to block, but before he could stand firm, the terrifying red light in front of him enveloped him again. Bang! The saber aura was overwhelming, but the waves were torn apart by the red light. He was repelled again. Heavily injured, Lin Feng stood up shakily. At this moment, his hands were almost numb. Lin Feng felt as if his internal organs had shifted positions. He had never been forced into such a situation before. Lin Feng pursed his lips tightly and attacked again and again. Despair. He was like a lone sail in the ocean, on the verge of collapse. At this moment, he was so close to death. The red light in front of him would probably tear him apart in the next second. Hua! His heart surged with the sea. On this battlefield, Lin Feng's heart was unprecedentedly focused. He felt inexplicably clear. There were no more enemies around him. There was only himself, a saber, a person, and a vast sea. His state of mind was clear. Boundless sea of chi. 7 spinning slash. So, this is the connection between them. This is the true essence of saber aura. The corners of his mouth lifted slightly, and the gray wolf saber hummed. Lin Feng felt a change. The saber aura of the 7 spinning slash came from unyielding and fighting. It was like a lonely sail facing the endless waves of the sea. It was unwilling to be destroyed by fate and made the strongest resistance. He comprehended with his heart, integrated his heart into his saber, and integrated it into his moves. Evil Dragon Entanglement. Lin Feng attacked with his saber. He was at the peak of the 3rd realm. His saber technique realm was perfect. The surging waves condensed into an unyielding attack. The power of the saber move was unleashed with saber intent, and its form was perfect. It collided madly with Yu Meng's saber like 2 meteorites. Heavenly lightning ignited the flames of the earth. Red light filled the sky. But this time, the aura of the waves had faintly gained the upper hand. Boom, I won. Yu Meng was a little stunned. Her final victory made her feel confused and confused. Yu Meng stood in the arena and closed her eyes. Sun Jian's saber had the saber aura of the evil dragon entanglement. His saber was like an evil dragon pouncing on her. His saber technique realm was higher than hers. Combined with the perfect saber move, this force was unstoppable. But I suddenly became weak. Yu Meng opened her eyes. They were flickering. It was as if her strength had been exhausted. She still won in the end. But why did she not feel like she had won at all? Was it because of her opponent's strength? Was he stronger than her? A breakthrough in battle. Sun Jian is unfathomable. Li Tong really picked up a treasure. Yu Meng's eyes were filled with envy. She sighed softly. Yu Meng, almost lost to a student. With a dazed expression, Yu Meng left the arena. The dust had settled. Compared to the battle between Sun Jian and Jin Haochen that everyone was focused on, this was the real battle of the century. The arena had not seen a battle of such intensity for a long time. What a pity! Instructor Yu Meng is too strong. She's at the 2nd tier of blood transformation cobalt. She's so cool. Sun Jian is already very strong to be able to force instructor Yu Meng to this extent. He's comparable to the strongest people in Area S. That's the strength of a high-level Geno warrior. Envy. Admiration. Although Sun Jian's undefeated record came to an abrupt end, this defeat did not affect his reputation at all. Instead, it made people truly understand Sun Jian's strength. He was comparable to instructor Yu Meng. He was shockingly strong. Chapter 66. It was a battle of epic proportions. The students in the combat space were mesmerized as they watched the replay of the battle. The saber-wielding martial artists, in particular, benefited a lot. Even someone as strong as Li Tong was immersed in the essence of the battle. He muttered to himself from time to time. Sun Jian's final burst of evil dragon coil. What an amazing saber intent. Strange, I also fully comprehended evil dragon coil. Why is my saber intent so much weaker than his? Is it because of the difference in saber intent? The same intent, when exerted on a different basis, would naturally have different powers. For example, how could the power exerted be the same when slashing while sitting and standing? Form and intent were the most basic components of saber moves. They were inseparable. Lin Feng was using a step-by-step method. He might not be able to win at the beginning and even waste a lot of time, but slowly, after comprehending the saber intent, the path would become wider and wider. At this moment, Lin Feng was already immersed in cultivation. In the high-alloy cultivation room, Chi, Lin Feng held the ash wolf battle saber in his hand and completely entered his own world. The boundless sea of energy appeared. The saber in Lin Feng's hand seemed to break through the waves in the sea with a strong, unyielding spirit. The saber move seemed to have a soul. It was incomparably clear. Evil dragon coil, flying fish turn. The saber intent was astonishing. It was still in the process of being perfected and improved. It was as if a hazy shadow was being carved out bit by bit. At this moment, Lin Feng's world was very simple. That was to practice the saber. Defeat? Lin Feng didn't care at all. On the contrary, this defeat was more valuable than 10 or 100 victories to him. The stronger the opponent, the stronger he could be. Lin Feng was already very satisfied that he could unleash his strength to this extent without using the Nine-Dragon scripture. The final defeat was partly due to the exhaustion of spirit chi. Although the soul of the earth had slowly grown from 1,000th of his dantian to 1,000th of his dantian, his heart sutra was also improving. The flowing cloud sutra was like a straw, and the boundless sea of energy was the water pipe. If the Nine-Dragon scripture was used, it would be a water pump. In a high-alloy cultivation room, the saber light was dazzling. Lin Feng's understanding of the saber intent still needed to be consolidated. He couldn't treat the potential that was unleashed in a desperate situation as his true strength. Only through arduous training and meticulous practice could one truly transform one's unseen potential into one's true strength. Now that the opportunity had come, he had to grasp it tightly. Who was Sun? This was definitely the hottest topic in Battle College. Under 18 years old, internal school selection competition. In the past 10 years, Zhan College's best ranking was only the top 8. In terms of genetic warriors, Zhan College was not as good as Elite Crown Academy and Sunset City's genetic students. In terms of ancient martial arts, Zhan College was not as good as the 4 major martial arts sections. This was also the biggest headache for Dean Xiaoshan. He couldn't help but frown when he looked at the list of participants this year. Jin Haochen, beginner Geno warrior. Gu Yi, beginner Geno warrior. Long Qin, beginner Geno warrior. Out of the 10, 7 of them were 3 Geno warriors. None of them were ancient warriors. On the one hand, the ancient warriors with potential were all recruited by the 4 martial gates. On the other hand, the cultivation speed of ancient warriors was indeed slower than Geno warriors. Looking at the list of the 10, Xia Shan shook his head helplessly. His granddaughter, Xia Ling, was among them. She was a high-level genetic warrior. These 10 people were indeed outstanding in Battle College. However, what about in Lori City? Entering the top 16 is probably their limit. To enter the top 8, they need to be at least mid-level warriors. The top 4 can enter China's battle camp to further their studies. Xia Shan's eyes flashed. He didn't care about entering China's battle camp. This was more important to Lori City's genetic academy and the 4 martial gates. However, if he could get first place, there would be a huge reward. One day and one night after entering the Qin Emperor's mausoleum. This was an ancient ruin. Although it couldn't be compared to the world's 7 great sacred sites, it was still able to survive the Great Extinction. It also had a mysterious power. Regardless of Battle College or Crown Elite Academy, they were all scrambling for it. However, this belonged to the country. 102 ND Batch, Geno Warrior Branch. Haha, this is too awesome. 5 people from the Ancient Warrior Branch are participating. Only one entered the top 10. Boss Long Qin and Miss Ling have both entered the top 10. However, what's wrong with Lin Feng? Why did he lose without a fight? Who knows? Is he a sore loser? I don't think so. Lin Feng is stronger than Xue Jin. He should be on par with his opponent. Shu, lower your voice. Can't you see that Miss Ling is in a bad mood? Damn it, this big pervert. Xia Ling was indeed angry. For the past 2 months, she had been cultivating in seclusion. She wanted to take revenge for that kick. Now, she was only one step away from becoming a beginner Geno warrior. She thought that Lin Feng would participate and enter the top 10. Who would have thought? Lin Feng actually gave up. Big pervert, I will definitely take revenge. Don't try to hide from me. Xiaoling bit her cherry lips. She looked shy and angry. Shuijin, who was beside her, saw the change in her expression. He was upset. He wanted to say something, but stopped. However, Xiaoling only had Lin Feng in her eyes. She did not care about him. Clenching his fists, Shuijin's heart was full of frustration. However, what could he do? If only I had the strength like Sun Jian. Shuijin's heart was filled with longing but powerlessness. He was deeply envious and jealous. If he could be on par with Minter Yumeng like Sun Jian, how difficult would it be to defeat Lin Feng? He might even be able to win Xia Ling's admiration and take her money. Unfortunately, this was just a fantasy. At this time, the lively hall quietened down. Minter Yumeng's graceful figure came with the fragrance. Her mature charm was even more seductive than Xia Ling's. Every week, no one in the class would miss Minter Yumeng's class. Of course, except for Lin Feng. Today is the last class. Yumeng's lips parted slightly, her enchanting voice causing everyone to be shocked. Last class? What did she mean? Her beautiful eyes swept across everyone. Yumeng said, "Everyone, don't panic. The academy will send a new mentor to take over. I have personal reasons. I have to leave for a while." As she spoke, Yumeng smiled charmingly. "Of course. I will wait until after Longqin and Xiaoling selection competition ends. All right, next, let's start today's class. The Use and Realm of Elemental Power. Chapter 67. Area A, Dormitory 102-100. Phew. The blade gleamed scattered as sweat dripped down. Lin Feng's lips curled up. He had succeeded. After comprehending the 7-spiral slash blade, while during the battle, he had been in seclusion for 3 days and 3 nights. He had finally succeeded in turning the blurry flash into his own strength. He had perfectly comprehended the first move of the 7-spiral slash, Evil Dragon Coil, and the second move, Flying Fish Spin. I'll take a bath and eat something first. Lin Feng kept his battle blade and walked out of the high alloy cultivation room. After practicing for 3 days and 3 nights, he didn't feel much other than a little hunger. As his mind expanse increased, his strength increased, and his body's endurance increased as well. Sitting at the dining table and eating the nutritious meal provided by the academy, Lin Feng's expression was calm. He naturally knew what he had missed. Intramural qualifiers. I have to apologize to mentor you. This was Lin Feng's only thought. Once the comprehension of the blade will was interrupted, he didn't know when he would be able to feel it again. Therefore, cultivation was usually carried out in seclusion and completed in one go. Of course, Lin Feng knew what was more important. For example, picking up his sister and his family's safety were more important to him than comprehension. As for the intramural qualifiers, it was much less important. Area T, Minter's dormitory. Sister, are you really leaving? Li Tong had a reluctant look on his face. All right, don't be so fake. Laugh if you want to. Yumeng laid lazily on the sofa. Her breasts were perky, and her clothes couldn't hide her sexy figure. How could I? Li Tong said righteously and regretfully. I really can't bear to part with you. As he spoke, Li Tong raised his eyebrows and changed the topic. All right, Jia, are you returning to the Merchant Alliance to report, or do you have other matters to attend to? Yumeng's beautiful eyes flickered as she said softly, I just want to be myself. Li Tong tilted his head and looked confused. That's enough. Yumeng looked at Li Tong. Do I know you well? What's the matter? Li Tong chuckled. It's like this, Jia. Didn't you fight with Sun Jian before? Did you notice anything special about him, or no? Yumeng replied directly. Li Tong couldn't help but be stunned. I know what you want to ask. Yumeng said, if I knew Sun Jian's identity, I wouldn't hide it from you, but Yumeng's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light. In Jian College, I couldn't find anyone similar to him, an ancient warrior. When she said the last 3 words, Yumeng paused slightly, seemingly hesitating. Is that so? Li Tong's face instantly turned bitter as he sighed helplessly. If he still couldn't find Sun Jian, he would be in big trouble when Brother Lei came back in a few days. At this moment, Ding Ling, The melodious sound of the doorbell rang. Yu Ming's beautiful eyes sparkled as she looked at Li Tong. If there's nothing else, you can go back. Open the door for me while you're at it. Li Tong dejectedly stood up. Then I'll leave first. Hua! The door of light opened. Lin Feng was slightly stunned and greeted, Instructor Li. Are you looking for Instructor Yu? Go in. Li Tong's face was pleasant as he forced a smile. Lin Feng nodded and immediately entered. Li Tong was still immersed in depression and didn't pay much attention to Lin Feng. He shook his head and sighed bitterly as he left. After entering the door, Lin Feng quickly saw Yu Ming. Have a seat. Don't be so polite. Yu Ming smiled. Her attitude towards Lin Feng and Li Tong was completely different. I'm sorry, Instructor Yu. Lin Feng apologized. Yesterday was a critical moment in my cultivation, so no need to explain, it's fine. Yu Ming nodded. I understand. Actually, participating in the selection competition is mainly to give you more experience. With your strength, it won't be a problem for you to enter the top 10 and qualify for the competition. But among the top 10, your strength isn't outstanding. Even if you participate in the Sunset City's New Star competition under 18, it will be difficult for you to get a good ranking. As she spoke, she looked at Lin Feng. Yu Ming smiled. But Lin Feng, you're improving very quickly. I believe that if you're fast, you'll be able to enter Area S next year. Huh? Yu Ming was slightly stunned. Looking at Lin Feng, she felt an indescribable sense of familiarity, as if Shuezhan? Body type very similar. Yu Ming's gaze was sharp. Broad shoulders, long arms, long legs, almost exactly the same as Shuezhan. Yu Ming's expression changed slightly as she looked at Lin Feng. Suddenly, she smiled. She had been distracted by Shuezhan for the past few days. How could Lin Feng be Shuezhan? One was an ancient warrior, the other was a Jin warrior. Furthermore, Shuezhan's strength was much stronger than Lin Feng's. They were just similar. I heard that you're leaving, mentor you? Lin Feng asked. This was what Tao Jing had told him. When he heard the news, he was also shocked. Yes. Yu Ming smiled and nodded. The loss this time made me think through a lot. Loss? Lin Feng was slightly stunned. Maybe Mentor Yu was not happy in some aspect. Then I wish you a safe journey. Lin Feng didn't pretend to be pretentious. He smiled and bowed his head. No matter what, Mentor Yu is someone I respect. If there's a chance, Lin Feng will repay you with all his might. A little bit of kindness should be repaid with a whole spring. Lin Feng would never forget. Okay, I'll remember. Yu Ming smiled and joked. After leaving Yu Ming's place, Lin Feng returned to the dormitory. Soaking in the gene fluid, along with the strengthening of his physique and brain expanse, the consumption of the gene fluid increased. The speed of absorption also increased, which naturally led to a sharp increase in brain expanse. Supplemented by the absorption of heaven and earth energy, Lin Feng reached the bottleneck in just 2 months. The absorption speed slowed down, and he was getting closer to 20% brain expanse. It was a terrifying cultivation speed. In just 2 months, Lin Feng had increased his brain expanse by nearly 10%. If others knew about this, they would be dumbfounded. This cultivation speed was unheard of. Monster? Monster was not enough to describe Lin Feng. Perhaps it was more appropriate to call him a demon. Before the breakthrough, I have to earn more battle points. Once I break through and become an ancient warrior, my combat strength will be comparable to a beginner-level martial venerable. By then, I will have nothing to fear. Lin Feng thought to himself. Expose himself? By then, so what if he was exposed? The strength of a beginner-level martial venerable was enough to protect himself. Shuezhan returned. The battle arena was in an uproar. This time, it was not only the level 4 battle stars. Even the level 5 battle stars in Area S had challenged Shuezhan. However, the students were not here to defeat Shuezhan. They were here to learn from each other or to witness the legend of a miracle. With Shuezhan's strength, he was already the uncrowned king of the battle arena. The strongest in Area S were 2 level 6 battle stars. Could they be compared to Instructor Yu Ming? To Lin Feng, he did not reject the idea of earning battle points. At least, it was much faster than earning money in the wilderness. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, It was the eve of the final battle of the school's qualifiers. As for Lin Feng, he finally broke through. Bang! After breaking through the last major acupoint, the governing meridian was unobstructed and the brain region was shaking violently. A flash of inspiration appeared. The opening of the central nervous system was not just the main meridian, but also the governing meridian and governing meridian. The main meridian was connected to the main meridian, and the branch meridian was connected to the branch meridian. Within the body, the second shackle was opened, and the hidden potential was completely released. To an ancient warrior, opening the governing meridian and governing meridian was a whole new realm. It was very difficult. In the previous era, there were only a few ancient warriors who had opened the governing meridian and governing meridian. Even now, spirit breakthrough was a relatively difficult task, especially in the later stages. This was because the improvement of the body was not only in strength and speed, but also in all aspects, including the bones, meridians, cells, and so on. Therefore, spirit breakthrough was more difficult in the later stages. For an ancient warrior with top-notch aptitude, it would take more than 10 days to break through the critical line. As for opening the second main meridian of the governing meridian and increasing the brain region to 20%, it would take at least a few months. And this was for an ancient warrior with top-notch aptitude. For those with mediocre aptitude, it would take years or even a lifetime. Just within the battle college alone, there were countless high-level ancient warriors who were trapped here. But Lin Feng only took 16 hours. Because of its existence. His spirit chi surged. Lin Feng's heart was as clear as a mirror. The opening of the governing meridian and governing meridian ushered in a new life change. Boundless spirit chi came from all directions, enveloping him. It was as though he was in a sea of spirit chi. His cells were constantly dividing, strengthening, dividing again, and strengthening again. His blood flowed rapidly. His bones absorbed the power of spirit chi and became tougher and tougher. The endurance of his meridians was constantly increasing. It was as though his entire person had evolved into a whole new person. The most astonishing thing was the soul of Earth. It was similarly absorbing spirit chi crazily. Originally, it was only 0.5% of the Dantian size, but it was constantly expanding and expanding. 0.6%, 0.7%. The sky was completely bright. The surrounding spirit chi had already dissipated. The soul of Earth was slowly rotating. With a size of 0.8% of the Dantian, it could accommodate 60% more spirit chi than before. But to Lin Feng, this wasn't the most fundamental change. The true improvement was the complete transformation of his body. High-level ancient warrior. Currently, he had already reached this level in all aspects. And once he used spirit chi, he would be invincible against those below martial venerable. And the 20% increase in the brain region allowed him to enter a new starting point for cultivation. It's about time. Lin Feng stood up and glanced at his crystal watch. It was already 9 o'clock in the morning. Tidy up. It's also time for me to leave. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. He wasn't used to a peaceful and comfortable life. He longed for challenges and improvements. Other than fighting in the battle arena, he couldn't increase his strength. The only thing he could do was to continue adventuring and follow in his elder brother's footsteps. Moreover, with his current strength, he could enter the real wasteland world to temper himself and experience the vastness of the world. Ollie was still lying in the hospital waiting for him. Wait for me, Ollie. This time, I will definitely earn enough money to hire godly Dr. Kai to cure you. Lin Feng was full of confidence. Then, he went into his bedroom to pack his things. Yes, I remember that the final battle of the school's qualifiers is this morning. What time is it? I forgot. Chapter 68. On the 5th of April, the morning sun was glaring. Today was the final match of the school's selection competition. Jin Haochen versus Gu Yi, a battle between two strong people in Area S. Compared to Area A, the strong people in Area S were the ones with true strength and potential. Although Xia Ling stood out after Long Qin Chi and almost defeated Jin Haochen, in the end, it was all for naught. After all, there was still an invisible gap between high-level genetic warriors and beginner genetic warriors. I heard that people from Crown Elite Academy are here. Is that true? Why are they here for the final match of our school's selection competition? I don't know. Maybe they want to test the strength of our school. In the academy, students could be seen in groups of 2s and 3s. The final match was not to be missed. Moreover, for the final match of the school selection competition, not only would the 3 high-level teachers be there, even the rarely seen dean would be there. I heard that the dean is a high-level genetic warrior? I'm not sure. I heard from the seniors that when Dean Xiao was young, he entered the wilderness and was seriously injured. In the end, he was forced to retire. That's amazing. If I can go to the wilderness in my lifetime, I will die without regrets. The wilderness? Lin Feng smiled. He wanted to go too. It was a more majestic and mysterious place than the ruined world. During the Great Extinction Era, countless continents, buildings, and civilizations have been destroyed, turning into a world of ruins. Some deserts, basins, forests, and even regions with the heaviest meteorite disasters had even evaporated, forming a boundless wilderness. It was rumored that there were existences beyond the level of Beast King. There, even a genetic warrior would have to be careful. In my lifetime, Lin Feng walked on the road, his eyes shining as he looked at the tall buildings around him. The magnetic pole floating stairs, floating castles, and capsule houses. His state of mind 2 months ago and 2 months later was completely different. He would definitely go to the wilderness. That was because that was the place where a warrior could truly challenge himself. Walking quietly on the road and looking at the scenery around him, Lin Feng suddenly realized that after entering Battle College for so long, he had not really understood the college. Besides the way to and from the dormitory, he had not been to any other place in Battle College. Where there are gains, there are losses. Lin Feng sighed. It was easy for people to overlook the things around them. As Lin Feng was admiring the scenery of the academy, his expression suddenly changed. He saw a figure in the distance that he didn't want to meet, but it just so happened that it was coming in the opposite direction. That purple robe, that exquisite and graceful figure, and the 2C1 grade U-type lightsabers on her back. It was too familiar. Chuan. Lin Feng immediately turned around. But big pervert. Xiaoling shouts startled Xue Jin and the other students. Lin Feng pretended not to hear anything and was about to leave when another figure suddenly appeared in front of him, blocking his path in shock. Lin Feng, you are... Lin Feng. Lin Feng was slightly taken aback. It was a young man in blue. He was alone and exuded a faint aura of arrogance. The symbol on his chest clearly indicated his identity. However, he didn't know him. Big pervert, stop right there. Xiaoling shouted behind him. In front of him was an unfamiliar senior from the S block, blocking his path. Lin Feng felt helpless. It seemed that the time he chose to leave wasn't good enough. It wasn't surprising that Xiaoling called him, but this young man in blue was, I finally found you, Lin Feng. The young man in blue's eyes shone brightly. He was overjoyed. You are. Lin Feng frowned. Senior Guo? Xiaoling and the other students saw the young man in blue and bowed their heads. The S block's Guo Li was a few years older than them. He was also the disciple of the Sunset Dojo's old wine pot, Hu Jiao. His status and strength weren't ordinary. He could be considered an influential figure in the academy. Ling Er. Guo Li's gaze swept across the crowd. He smiled and nodded at Xiaoling, but he didn't linger on the others. His gaze instantly focused on Lin Feng. He smiled embarrassedly and extended his hand. Hello, I am Sunset Dojo's Guo Li, Lin Feng. Lin Feng shook his hand. We have been looking for you for a long time, Lin Feng. Guo Li laughed heartily and was slightly excited. I didn't expect you to be so close to me. Lin Feng, you're actually hiding in the academy. No wonder Master and the 4 major martial arts sects sent so many people, but they didn't find anything. Master? For major martial arts sects? Not only were Xiaoling and Xue Jin stunned, but even Lin Feng himself was confused. Why were the 4 major martial arts sects looking for him? By the way, Lin Feng, how did you... the battle crystal of the Geno combatant branch? Guo Li stared at Lin Feng's chest in shock. He frowned and suddenly raised his head to look at Lin Feng. That's right. You are definitely Lin Feng, but aren't you an ancient martial artist? How can you have the battle crystal of the Geno combatant branch? Ancient martial artist. Xia Ling and Xue Jin were stunned. Lin Feng was an ancient martial artist? Brother Gua, did you get the wrong person? Xia Ling said hesitantly. He is in the same class as us. Xia Ling couldn't help but glare at Lin Feng. Unfortunately, there was no fierceness in her eyes. Instead, it was like a flirting between lovers. After all, Xia Ling's so-called hatred was more shyness. In terms of hatred, she might not even be as hateful as Xue Jin. No, definitely not. Guoli nodded heavily. I saw Lin Feng in the Ancient Martial Arts Alliance with my own eyes, and Guoli's gaze fell on Lin Feng's elemental battlesuit. This E9 elemental battlesuit must be a gift from the Ancient Martial Arts Alliance. Just scan the code, and you will know. As he spoke, Guoli stared at Lin Feng warily, as if saying, Don't try to deny it. Sure enough, it's not auspicious to go out. Lin Feng didn't care too much. After all, he didn't deliberately hide his identity when he went to the Ancient Martial Arts Alliance. Secondly, his current strength was enough to protect himself. There was no need to hide. He was an ancient martial artist. So what? Brother Gua, what do you mean? Lin Feng asked. Don't misunderstand. I don't mean anything else. Guoli explained, I'm just passing on my master's orders. My master wants to see you. Brother Gua's master is? Lin Feng was curious. Guoli smiled and replied, the manager of the Sunset Dojo, Hu Jiao, known as the Old Wine Pot. Old Wine Pot? Hu Jiao? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He had heard of it before. After all, he had carefully checked the information of the 4 major martial arts organizations and the Sunset Dojo. Senior Hu Jiao was an ancient martial venerable of the older generation. He had a very high status in the Sunset City. He had a wide network and was very popular. Even the 4 major martial arts organizations had to give him face. Such a venerable senior wanted to see him? If he refused, it would be too disrespectful. Moreover, getting to know such a well-connected senior would only bring benefits and no disadvantages. I've heard a lot about you. Lin Feng nodded. So Lin Feng, you mean you agree? Guoli's eyes brightened. Lin Feng smiled. That would be my honor. That's great. I'll inform my master immediately. Guoli nodded and pressed the call button. Soon, Master, I found Lin Feng. It's true. It's the real Lin Feng. This time, it's definitely not fake. And okay, then we'll meet at the Sunset Dojo in 2 hours. I know. Yes, yes. After ending the call, Guoli looked at Lin Feng and smiled. Brother Lin, my master asked me to make you stay. He's currently in the Qin Imperial City. When he heard that you were found, he immediately pushed aside all his matters and rushed over. Looking at his crystal watch, Guoli said, he'll probably arrive around noon. We'll have to wait for another 2 hours. Why don't? Let's go watch the final match of the school's preliminaries. When it's over, it should be about time. What do you think, Lin Feng? Lin Feng smiled. What could he do? An ancient martial revered senior with a great reputation had come all the way here to see him. Not to mention 2 hours. Even if it was 20 hours, he had to wait. Okay. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. This way, please, Brother Lin. Guoli smiled. The two left quickly. Xia Ling, Xue Jin, and the other students were left dumbfounded. They didn't know what had happened. Lin Feng was an ancient martial artist? The famous Old Wine Pot senior had pushed aside all his matters and rushed back from the Qin Imperial City just to see him? The 4 major martial institutions had sent people to look for him? What was going on? Is the Lin Feng we know the same person? One of the students asked in a daze. Could it be that we got the wrong person? Chapter 69. Martial Arts Elemental Building. High alloy walls, super alloy battle arena, and a protective layer formed by elemental technology to prevent the impact of the battle arena. Lin Feng and Guoli came together. The students around them whispered from time to time. Guoli's name was very famous in the War College. He graduated from the War College with Master Hu Jiao paving the way for him. His own strength was also not bad. In the future, he would be in a high position in Sunset City. However, Lin Feng was obviously unfamiliar. "Brother Lin, sit here." Wherever Guoli passed, the students respectfully made way for him. A seat in the front row. Lin Feng glanced around. He had heard of the seating arrangement in the martial arts elemental building. It was divided by class. The innermost circle was the one closest to the battle arena. Except for the instructors and VIPs, only the students in Area S could sit there. "Sit in the back row." Lin Feng smiled. Although he could benefit from Guo Li's fame, there was no need to attract gossip. Besides, the difference was not big. Guo Li looked at Lin Feng and nodded. The two sat down. In Area A, many students were already seated. However, the area where Lin Feng and Guo Li sat was relatively empty. Lin Feng glanced around the entire martial arts elemental building. Almost half of the seats were filled. The students came from various entrances. It was very lively. In addition to the autumn graduation ceremony, the most lively event is the spring preliminaries. Guo Li looked at Lin Feng and smiled. The finals is Jin Haochen against Gu Yi. Lin Feng glanced at the list of matches next to the battle arena. These two people, he seemed to have learned from each other in the World War College. Especially Gu Yi. He had just met him 2 days ago. Before the match, he bowed to him. Therefore, he had a deep impression of him. Yes, they are evenly matched. Guo Li nodded. Gu Yi's luck is good. He just finished practicing neo-martial arts before the finals, using defense against offense. In my opinion, the probability is 50-50. Gu Yi. I'm afraid he is not Jin Haochen's opponent. Lin Feng shook his head. Why you say so? Guo Li was surprised. In terms of elemental power control, both of them have reached the second level, external release. There's not much difference between them, but Jin Haochen is slightly better. Lin Feng's eyes flickered, and the battle between the two suddenly appeared in his mind. But Jin Haochen's nickel domain is far superior to Gu Yi's potassium sulfide, especially since Gu Yi's potassium sulfide has just been mastered. Guo Li stared blankly at Lin Feng. Even Jin Haochen didn't know that Gu Yi had successfully cultivated potassium pyrite. Lin Feng smiled. This was what Gu Yi had said when he challenged him 2 days ago. I saw him at the battle arena. Lin Feng casually said, there's a 90% chance. If nothing goes wrong, Jin Haochen will win easily. His power is at the level of an intermediate Geno warrior. Indeed, but even an intermediate Geno warrior would have a slim chance of making it to the top 8 in Sunset City's New Star competition, let alone the top 4. Guo Li shook his head. Only the top 4 can enter the war camp. The war camp. Lin Feng looked at Guo Li curiously. What is that place? You don't know? Guo Li looked surprised. Lin Feng shook his head. He had never heard of it before. It is the place where the elites of our ancient Huaxia are trained. Guo Li's voice revealed a hint of envy. If you can enter the war camp, your future will be limitless. Those who come out of the war camp are at least at the level of a martial saint. None of them are at the level of a martial general. That powerful. Lin Feng was shocked. Guo Li nodded. To enter the war camp, you either have to be recommended by the army or have good results in various competitions at the city level. Other than the students of Elite Crown Academy, who doesn't want to enter, that is a great opportunity to become a dragon. Why is Elite Crown Academy an exception? Lin Feng was curious. Guo Li looked at Lin Feng and said, this is not a big secret. Actually, many people know about it. For example, the Genetic Academy in Sunset City is backed by ancient Huaxia. Behind Elite Crown Academy is Dragon Killing Island. Have you heard of the top 10 experts in the world? No. Suddenly, Lin Feng realized that his knowledge was very limited. However, this was normal. Depending on one's level of strength, one would be exposed to different kinds of information. Although Guo Li was not strong, his master was the manager of Sunset Dojo. Naturally, he would know more. Dragon Killing Island was founded by the owner of Dragon Killing Island. The owner of Dragon Killing Island is one of the top 10 experts in the world. Guo Li's eyes flashed with envy. That is one of the top 10 experts in the world. Each of them is on the same level as the 7 major countries. On the same level as the country? Lin Feng was stunned. Since he was young, he knew that he was a Huaxia citizen. The blood of ancient Huaxia flowed in his body. The country was a supreme existence in his heart. However, he was now told that when the strength of a martial artist reached a certain level, they could be on the same level as the country. This was too shocking. However, my master said that the owner of Dragon Killing Island is not a good person, Guoli said softly. Why is that? Lin Feng was filled with curiosity. Dragon Killing Island and the top 10 experts in the world. How many more did he not know? Because the owner of Dragon Killing Island was originally a Huaxia citizen, Guoli said softly. However, I heard that he was a mixed blood. I don't know if it's true or not. As he became stronger, his ambition was revealed. He spent a huge amount of money to build an island in the Southeast Ocean. Although he did not break away from ancient Huaxia, the relationship between them is only in name. Lin Feng was deep in thought. Then, why was he able to build an academy on Huaxia soil and recruit elites? What can we do? Guoli sighed helplessly. The current era is not as peaceful as the previous era. Every country is fighting both openly and secretly. After the Great Extinction, spiritual energy is everywhere and resources are abundant. Who wouldn't want to monopolize the resources and become the strongest? That was right. Who wouldn't want to have more resources than others? Everyone had desires. Lin Feng understood. The top 10 experts in the world were powerful existences that were on equal footing with countries. It was better to rope them and then to fall out with them. I didn't expect this world to not be peaceful. Big Brother is right. Everyone has greed and desires. Therefore, wherever there are people, there will be conflicts and dangers. If we want to survive on this land, we must be powerful enough. Lin Feng felt a strong sense of danger. Guoli's words blew away the fog in front of him like a gust of wind. He could clearly see the cruelty and competition in this world. And this was only the world that Guoli saw. They chatted happily. Guoli was trying to rope people in, and Lin Feng was more than happy to be roped in. Why wouldn't he be happy to learn more? Moreover, although Guoli seemed arrogant, he was not a bad person. There was no harm in making friends with him. By the way, Lin Feng, Guoli smiled and asked, if you become one of the top 10 experts like the Lord of Dragon Killing Island, will you make the same choice as him? No, Lin Feng said with a smile. You don't have ambitions? Guoli asked curiously. Yes, Lin Feng smiled and looked into the distance with longing. But my roots are here. Chapter 70. As a warrior, he had to have ambition, the ambition to become stronger. But as a person, he couldn't forget his roots. Well said. Guoli gave him a thumbs up. If every strong person could think like you, Lin Feng, our ancient Huaxia, would be strong. That's why I admire Senior Zhenwu the most. It's because of his existence that our ancient Huaxia can stand strong and not be bullied by others. Lin Feng nodded. Zhenwu, the stabilizing force of ancient Huaxia, one of the top 10 strong people in the world. He was indeed worthy of respect. As he spoke, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. In the distance, 6 figures were slowly approaching, led by 2 men with extraordinary auras. The one on the right was wearing a red elemental armor. He had red hair, and his entire body emitted a shocking sword will. His entire person was like a battle sword. The one on the left was a handsome man wearing blue Geno armor. He had a faint smile on his face. On their chests, they had the same metal. Pure gold, 9 stars, full of extreme dominance. That was the 9-star medal of an adventurer. It clearly represented their strength, high-level martial saints. Behind the 2 were 3 men and 1 woman. Lin Feng recognized one of the men and one of the women. Teacher Yu. Lin Feng was surprised. His gaze fell on the middle-aged man behind the left. He had a smile on his face with a domineering arrogance. He would never forget that face. In the past, that disdainful and angry gaze, the back view that flicked his sleeves and left, had almost become his nightmare. Elite Crown Academy, Vice President. Until today, Lin Feng still felt a dull pain in his heart. I didn't expect the inspector to come. Guoli's eyes flashed as he muttered. Inspector? Lin Feng came back to his senses. Guoli nodded. The battle academies are funded by the Elemental Commerce Alliance. Including Qinhuang City, there are a total of 21 cities and 21 battle academies. Apart from Qinhuang City, each inspector is responsible for the talent of the 5 battle academies. For example, the newcomer Long Qin was taken away by the inspector. He didn't even participate in the selection competition. Long Qin, Lin Feng was deep in thought. He still clearly remembered that calm and quiet young man. My master mentioned to me that this Lord Patrol Inspector, Bloodblade Lei Gang, cultivates the blood battle arts. His battle strength is top-notch. Guoli whispered. Feng Wu, the vice leader of the Cold Blade sect, is a bit weaker than him. Who is the one wearing the blue armor? Lin Feng asked. I don't know him. Guoli said softly. His eyebrows were slightly furrowed. However, in my opinion, he should be the patrol envoy of the Elite Crown Academy. Look behind him. One is the vice principal of Crown Elite Academy, and the other is this year's Rising Star Competitions champion, the super genius His Majesty. Emperor? Nicknames were usually unique. Basically, only martial saints would have nicknames. However, there were also some special geniuses, such as the Emperor. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Although he had never met the Emperor, Huang Shang, he had read up on him in detail when he was investigating the soul of the earth. He had an insane fitness level and was a super genius of Elite Crown Academy. An advanced Geno battle general had the strength of a martial saint because, like him, he had awakened the soul of the earth. At the age of 16, he had entered the top 16 of Sunset City's Rising Star competition under 18. Last year, he had almost won the championship. This year, he was 18. There is no suspense. Last year, Bailuya from a Nine Cloud sect was his opponent. This year, she will probably be his opponent. Guoli smiled bitterly. Huang Shang's true strength has reached the beginner Geno battle venerable level. He is definitely the champion of this year's Rising Star competition under 18 in Sunset City. Lin Feng's gaze landed on the yellow-clothed young man. With his hands behind his back, he looked very arrogant and had a faint, confident smile on his face. The Emperor, Brother Lei, I heard that the business alliance has taken in a level 1 genius this time. Tung Lan wore the blue armor and smiled slyly. Just a level 2 genius. Lei Gang was indifferent. Is that so? I don't think so. Tung Lan narrowed his eyes. We have been friends for so many years. Do you have to lie to me about such a small matter? Don't try to curry favor with me. Lei Gang sneered. You came uninvited. I'm already giving you face by not kicking you out. Tung Lan chuckled. I am here to see an old friend. Lei Gang rolled his eyes and was too lazy to be polite with Tung Lan. Behind him, Dean Xiaoshan smiled and arranged seats for everyone. Although the 3 academies were in constant competition, they still maintained a subtle balance between each other. They had their own basic hospitality. Brother Lei, did Long Qin also awaken the soul of the earth? Tung Lan narrowed his eyes and asked. Yes, Lei Gang answered indifferently. Hey, you're lying to me again. Tung Lan smiled with a hint of slyness in his eyes. You answered so quickly. Definitely not. That is not. Lei Gang was still expressionless. Tung Lan's eyes moved with a hint of slyness. Or, is it the evolution of the elemental heart? You are so annoying. Lei Gang shouted unhappily. Either you stay here and watch quietly, or get out. Tung Lan's mouth twitched. He felt embarrassed, but he still suppressed his anger and smiled. I'm just asking casually. If Brother Lei doesn't like it, I will not ask. Tung Lan turned his head, and his smile disappeared. It was replaced with a hint of coldness. He glanced at Vice Dean Wu Shen behind him. The latter understood and nodded. Yumeng glanced over and frowned slightly. Those who came did not come with good intentions. It is almost 10 o'clock. Guoli looked at his crystal watch. Yes, it is about to start. Lin Feng looked at the arena. Jin Haochen and Gu Yi were already prepared. Compared to Jin Haochen's calmness, Gu Yi seemed a little nervous. The arena was filled with students of Battle College. There were at least 1,000 of them, and almost 80% of them were present. Indeed, it was the center of attention. It is starting. Guoli's voice sounded in his ears. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Buzz, buzz, buzz as Jean Houchin and Gu entered the arena. A layer of magnetic elemental light condensed around the arena. The injection of powerful energy was enough to resist the attack of a combat grandmaster. The super alloy floor of the arena was even tougher and sturdier. Compared to the battles in the world of battles, this was a real battle. No matter how realistic the virtual reality was, there was always an invisible barrier between the internet and reality. Jean Houchin. Jean Houchin. Overwhelming voices sounded. The screen above the martial arts elemental building played the scene clearly from all angles, all directions, close distance, vertical distance, and even the center of focus. The bell rang loudly. The final battle of the school's qualifiers had officially begun. Lei Gang's gaze was focused on the arena as he watched the duel. Jean Houchin was not the only one paying attention. He was also paying attention. As a patrol, he naturally did his best to select geniuses for the Elemental Business Alliance. The duel was the most direct and clearest way to judge. Although he has comprehended the elemental martial art, Potash, his personality is too soft and his desire for battle is not strong enough. His potential is average. High-level Geno warrior is probably his limit. He does not reach the standard of a third-level genius. Lei Gang quickly made a judgment. If he could not reach the standard, he would not make up the numbers. The Elemental Business Alliance wanted elites. The so-called third-level geniuses could at least become an ordinary martial venerable. If he could not even reach the level of a third-level genius, it was not worth wasting resources on him. Lei Gang's ears twitched. His eyes flashed. He knew who the laughter came from. The first-level genius of the dragon-killing island, Huang Shang, who was known as the Emperor. To be called a first-level genius, it meant that as long as there were no accidents, he could basically become an advanced martial venerable. He could even surpass that level. Every level 1 genius was someone that all the major forces would fight over with all their might. This blue wolf is well-informed, Lei Gang thought to himself. The duel was very exciting, but just as Lin Feng expected, Yi could not defeat Jean Houchin. The latter was basically unharmed except for using some genetic energy. It was a clean win. The nickel field was very powerful. The elemental martial arts of the Geno warriors are really enviable, Guo Li exclaimed. Even I am no match for Jean Houchin when he uses the nickel field. Everyone has their own strengths. Lin Feng looked at the arena where the dust had settled. Ancient warriors have their own advantages. The elemental martial arts of the Geno warriors are indeed immediate, but the martial spirits of the ancient warriors may not be weaker than those of the Geno warriors as their strength increases. Guo Li looked at Lin Feng and smiled. My master said the same thing, but it's just not necessarily. Guo Li sighed and rested his chin on his hand. How good would it be if I had both the physical advantages of the martial spirits of the ancient warriors and the elemental martial arts of the Geno warriors? Is that possible? Lin Feng smiled. I have thought about it. Actually, there is one possibility. Guo Li raised his eyebrows and suddenly became interested. He smiled. Don't laugh at me when I tell you. Oh. Lin Feng looked at Guo Li with a smile. Guo Li smiled. Do you know about spirit essence? Lin Feng nodded. As an ancient warrior, how could he not know about the martial spirits? After opening the Run and Du meridians, the ancient warriors had to break through the spirit, heroic spirit, and spirit essence to reach the legendary realm of 3 flowers at one's prominence. Of course, this was according to the saying of the previous era. Spirit essence is also called small dantian. Breaking through the spirit essence is equivalent to opening a second dantian. Guo Li was excited. When the time comes, if the spirit essence is merged with the elemental heart, won't you be able to control the power of the elements and practice elemental martial arts? Guo Li laughed. But this is just an extravagant hope. The ancient warriors are not born with genes. It is impossible to merge with the elemental heart. Don't you think so, Lin Feng? Guo Li smiled. Chapter 71. Yes, Lin Feng replied. His heart was surging and he couldn't calm down at all. Guo Li smiled. He was just chatting and didn't care about the change in Lin Feng's expression. But the speaker didn't mean it. But the listener did. Why was it impossible? Lin Feng's breathing was a little rushed. Other people couldn't do it, but what about him? He felt like a door was opening. Rush the essence and merge the elemental heart. Lin Feng's eyes were shining, and he couldn't hide his excitement. Heaven and earth energy and genetic energy don't repel each other. Merging the essence into the elemental heart won't change the essence of the dantian and the direction of cultivation, but it can increase the strongest ability of the Geno warrior, elemental martial arts. Lin Feng's fists unconsciously clenched. Why didn't he think of it? Guo Li's words woke him up from his dream. On the other side of the battle arena, exciting match. Tung Lan, who was wearing blue Geno armor, stood up and clapped her hands with a smile. What a fierce battle. Combat College's standards have improved a lot in the past few years. It's really impressive. Her clear voice resounded throughout the entire combat elemental gym. It was enough to show Tung Lan's strength. The gazes of all the students were immediately attracted, including Lin Feng, who also regained his senses. Yes, I didn't expect War College's standard to be comparable to our elite Crown Academy in just over 10 years. Deputy Dean Wu Sheng sighed. The surrounding students listened to him and whispered to each other. They couldn't help but smile. Looking at Deputy Dean Wu Sheng, Lin Feng frowned. At this moment, TSK, a disdainful snort sounded. It was especially ear-piercing. Huang Shang, who was wearing yellow Geno armor, jumped lightly and landed on the battle arena, causing an uproar in the stands. Elite Crown Academy, Huang Shang. I wonder if anyone from War College dares to come up and fight. His voice was calm and had extreme confidence and arrogance. Huang Shang put his hands behind his back and scanned the audience. Finally, his gaze landed on Jin Haochen. He smiled coldly and hooked his finger. Wow, the entire martial arts elemental library was boiling. Who is he? Idiot, it's that emperor, the runner-up of last year's Rising Star competition under 18 in Sunset City. Too damn arrogant. Huang Shang aroused public indignation. Whoosh! Lei Gang stood up, his tiger-like eyes gleaming with a bloody light, his aura ruthless. Behind him, Dean Xiaoshan and Yu Ming also stood up in dissatisfaction and cast their gazes towards Tung Lan and Wu Sheng. Huang Shang's actions were too much. Blue Wolf, I think you're tired of living. Lei Gang's killing intent was revealed, as if a bloody blade had been unsheathed, giving people a chilling feeling. It's a misunderstanding, Brother Lei. How could I have known that this child would be so impulsive? Tung Lan had an innocent expression as she spread out her hands. I'm sorry, Patrol Inspector. It's my fault for not stopping this child. The Vice Dean hurriedly explained. Huang Shang is too proud and arrogant. He can't take the slightest provocation. If I have offended you in any way, please forgive me. And at this time, no one. Such a big college. Don't tell me everyone is a coward. Even if the students don't dare to come, it doesn't matter if a teacher comes. Huang Shang shrugged his shoulders. All of a sudden, all the students' faces changed. This was more than arrogance. It was simply stepping on their faces. They came to make trouble. Anger. Lei Gang really didn't expect Blue Wolf to be so ruthless. It could be said that he was in a dilemma, letting Huang Shang cause trouble here. If Zhan College didn't even dare to face him, it would be equivalent to showing weakness. Not only would he lose face, but Zhan College would also lose face. In less than 3 hours, this matter would spread throughout Luori City and seriously affect Zhan College's reputation. But if they were to face him, the opponent was the Emperor, a senior Geno war general, this year's Rising Star competition under 18 in Luori City. Not to mention the students, even the 3 senior mentors might not be his opponent. They were in big trouble. Sigh, this child, how could he do this? He doesn't give us any face. Tung Lan kept shaking her head and looked at Lei Gang. She said seriously, I'm sorry, Brother Lei. I will call Huang Shang down and let him apologize. What do you think? Don't pretend over there. Lei Gang didn't even bother to look at Tung Lan. He suppressed his anger and said in a deep voice, You have guts. What happened today? I will get back at you sooner or later. Tung Lan sneered coldly. If Brother Lei can reveal some information about Long Qin, maybe today Jean College will not only not lose face, but also get some good luck. Get lost, Lei Gang shouted coldly. You should have guessed that Blue Wolf wouldn't come to the temple for no reason. Obviously, he came prepared. At this moment, I'll do it. Jin Haochen jumped on the stage, full of fighting spirit. You? Huang Shang smiled with indifference in his eyes. Go down. I won't even need 5 seconds to deal with you. 5 seconds. Everyone was astonished by this. No matter how weak Jin Haochen was, his strength was comparable to an intermediate Geno war general. In the previous battle, Gu Yi couldn't even hurt him. How powerful was the nickel domain? But now, this Huang Shang dared to talk nonsense. Wasn't he too arrogant? 5 seconds, huh? Lin Feng looked at the battle arena and felt uncomfortable in his heart. No matter what, this was his college. Although he hadn't been in Jean College for long, he had a sense of belonging. Bastard! Guoli was so angry that his face turned red. Lin Feng looked around and saw that almost all the students were the same. At this moment, Jin Haochen, who wasn't convinced, had already activated the nickel domain and attacked Huang Shang. However, cadmium net. Huang Shang's eyes flashed. He waved his hand, and a net of lightning flashed in front of him. The lightning was like a snake, crisscrossing horizontally and vertically. It emitted a shocking lightning glow and expanded rapidly and elongated at an extremely fast speed. In an instant confrontation with the nickel domain, in a competition of pure elemental energy, Jin Haochen was directly suppressed. The gap is too big. Lin Feng could already see the result. In a direct confrontation of elemental energy, the gap between Jin Haochen and his opponent was not just a little bit. His nickel domain couldn't exert its power at all. In a short time, the cadmium net was stretched from 2 meters to 10 meters long. Huang Shang's lips curled into a cold smile as he put his hands together. Suddenly, the flat cadmium net seemed to be bent by a huge force. It gathered from both sides instantly. The terrifying electric force had no physical body. It was like a snake of lightning that stretched endlessly and gathered. Jin Haochen was suddenly a bird in a cage. Boom! Jin Haochen jumped up in a panic, tried to escape the cadmium net. He lost. Lin Feng frowned slightly. In an instant, electric force came from all directions. It was like a layer of shackles that directly bound Jin Haochen. The terrifying electric force in the air was like a snake of lightning that tore at Jin Haochen. The Geno armor was broken. Jin Haochen spat out blood, and his body twitched violently. Boom! Jin Haochen fell heavily and fainted. It was silent. 5 seconds? No, it was only 3 seconds. Jin Haochen had been utterly defeated. He couldn't even get close to Huang Shang. The difference in strength was too great. Huang Shang put his hands behind his back and walked toward Jin Haochen with a contemptuous smile. He raised his leg and kicked him out of the arena. Hurry up and heal him. Otherwise, don't blame me for not warning you if there are any side effects. After that, he turned around and returned to the center of the arena. Huang Shang's gaze swept across the audience. Next. I'll do it, someone shouted. Senior Hong Lei. It's Senior Hong Lei from Area S. Defeat him. Area S had a total of 9 people. 4 of them were level 4 battle stars, 3 were level 5 battle stars, and 2 were level 6 battle stars. The Senior Hong Lei everyone was talking about was a level 5 battle star. However, he was 4 years older than Huang Shang. But now who cared? There was nothing good about it, because Hong Lei couldn't break Huang Shang's terrifying electric cage and the powerful elemental cadmium net. Another defeat was added to the list. Third, fourth, Combat College's mission was to fight. Although they knew they couldn't win, they didn't retreat. Unfortunately, reality was cruel. Huang Shang's strength wasn't just a little bit stronger. He had defeated 4 strong opponents in Area S, and none of them could even get close to him. That arrogant smile was like a real emperor. Overlooking the crowd, more than 1,000 students, each of their faces were ashen and extremely ugly. To be bullied and stepped on in front of their own home. What kind of humiliation was this? Lei Gang suppressed the anger in his heart. He couldn't wait to tear Huang Shang into pieces, but he couldn't do anything right now. Behind him, Dean Xiaoshan and Yu Ming's faces were red with anger. If they let Huang Shang leave today, then Combat College's face would be lost. But what could they do? No. Is there no one else? Huang Shang's smile was filled with ridicule and ridicule. Both of his palms were facing upwards, provoking the students in the audience. Damn it, I can't stand it. Guoli gritted his teeth. His eyes were cold as he stood up. Ha! However, he felt a weight on his shoulder. Let me do it. An indifferent voice slowly sounded. Chapter 72. Lin Feng stood up. His gaze swept across the arena and landed on where Minter Yu was. He had never seen Minter Yu with such an expression before. It was a feeling of humiliation and dignity being trampled on. He could even see the crystal light in her eyes. A little bit of kindness should be repaid with a gushing spring. Lin Feng had never forgotten. He did not want to see Minter Yu sad or humiliated like this. Including all the students of Battle College, including Guoli and himself, Huang Shang had trampled on the entire Battle College. Just as Guoli said, he could not bear it. Lin Feng, you? Guoli frowned. In his impression, Lin Feng was just an ancient warrior. While they were talking, whoosh, a white misty figure shot out from the stands like an arrow with a purple glow. 2 jade lightsabers flashed. Ling, Xiaoshan, and Yu Ming were shocked. Bad guy. A delicate voice sounded. Xiaoling's figure was very illusory. She was like a mist that disappeared without a trace. Her movements could not be seen. She appeared in front of Huang Shang in an instant. D3 Neo Martial Art. Win Dance 70%. Ling broke through. Yu Ming was stunned. Beginner Geno Warrior? Xiaoshan was also happy. Suddenly, his expression changed. Oh no! Fast! Strangely fast. Xiaoling's movements were unpredictable. The lightsaber arrived in an instant. Huang Shang's eyes were bright. He did not use his elemental martial art, Cadmium Net, because he knew that Cadmium Net was useless against the B-class special element, Niobium Heart. He pulled out the soft sword from his waist. Huang Shang's hands were covered in a layer of cadmium crystal. He waved it like a whip. The power of cadmium gathered together with lightning and clashed with Xiaoling's lightsaber. Pung! A soft snort sounded, and a sneer appeared on Huang Shang's face. In an instant, the power of cadmium condensed. The soft sword in Huang Shang's hand was like a giant python opening its bloody mouth. Pung! This was a real counterattack. Although she had the protection of her Geno armor, the strong impact still made Xiaoling pale. She was badly injured. Even if she broke through to become a beginner Geno warrior, Huang Shang was 2 levels higher than her. The difference in elemental power was too big. Cadmium Snake Dance. The cadmium crystal flashed and shattered, turning into dense cadmium power. 5 electric snakes shot out from Huang Shang's left hand, heading straight for Xiaoling, who was flying backward. Was a first-grade genius. This is it. While others were still working hard on the first elemental martial art, Huang Shang had already mastered the second elemental martial art. Not good. Yu Ming and Xiaoshan's faces changed. With their strength, they could naturally see Xiaoling's situation. If she was hit by the 5 cadmium snakes, she would definitely be severely injured. However, the 2 of them were at the other end of the battlefield. They were so far away. How could they make it in time to save him? Yu Ming and Xia Shanxin hurried over. Lei Gang's eyes brightened. Chi, a figure of light, appeared at an astonishing speed, riding the wind and breaking the waves. It was Lin Feng. Little fish swim. Lin Feng hugged her soft and tender body in midair without any other thoughts. In front of him, 5 electric snakes condensed from cadmium energy shot towards him. Lin Feng's footsteps quickly changed, twisting and turning. In a narrow space, he was like a fish swimming, avoiding all of them. With one hand, he was still hugging Xia Ling, feeling the tender body in his arms trembling slightly. Lin Feng looked over. Xia Ling was also looking at Lin Feng, her cheeks burning red. At that moment, she felt that she was in a desperate situation. At this moment, the figure that had once made her angry and hateful appeared. It was very quiet. Everyone looked at the new figure that appeared in the battlefield, feeling unfamiliar and confused. It's Lin Feng. Who is Lin Feng? I'm not sure, but that movement just now was at Little Fish Swim. Little Fish Swim? Lei Gang looked at Lin Feng curiously. Xia Shan heaved a sigh of relief. Yu Ming's beautiful eyes flashed as she stared at Lin Feng. Thank you. Xiaoling's voice was as soft as a mosquito's. Her face was red as she pouted. Let go of me, big pervert. The tender body in his arms wanted to break free. Lin Feng leaped up and jumped down from the battlefield. He went to where Teacher Yu Ming was and put Xiaoling down. Their eyes met. Lin Feng could see many things from Teacher Yu's eyes. He couldn't help but smile. He couldn't hide it anymore. I'm sorry, Teacher Yu, Lin Feng said softly. You are Sun Jian, right? Yu Ming's red lips parted slightly, revealing her lilac fragrance. Lin Feng smiled. He bowed slightly and turned to step onto the battlefield. Sun Jian, Xiaoling covered her cherry lips and looked at Lin Feng's back in disbelief. He is Sun Jian? The spectator stand was filled with confusion. Those who had challenged Huangshang were all famous experts in the academy. However, Lin Feng, not many people knew him. He's courting death. Shui Jin snorted. Another one seeking death. Why bother? Wang Xiuming shook his head. Brother Lin. Tao Jing clenched her hands nervously. Good job, Lin Feng. Come on. We of the 102nd Geno Warrior Academy are not cowards. The students in the same class cheered for Lin Feng. He could lose the battle, but his aura, he couldn't lose. Who are you? Huang Shang asked disdainfully. A nobody in Zhan College. Lin Feng smiled and looked at Huang Shang from a distance. Do you want to eat an energy capsule to restore your genetic energy? Huh? Huang Shang laughed as if he had heard a joke. Do you think I need it? I don't think so. Lin Feng smiled. Clang. The gray wolf battle blade was unsheathed, and a sound like a wolf's howl resounded. In an instant, the entire combat elemental dojo became silent. All the students in the spectator stands had their eyes wide open, and they were all dumbstruck. Did they see wrongly? What was that? Ash Wolf's battle blade. Suddenly, a trembling voice rang out. It's really Gray Wolf battle blade. Oh my God. He can't be. In the air, there was an amazing vibration. It was the sound of suffocation and the frantic beating of the heart. The faces of the students were full of shock, madness, and joy. In the arena of the world of battle, there was an undefeated legend. There was a godlike powerhouse who wore the most ordinary E9 elemental armor and held the Gray Wolf battle blade. He climbed to the top step by step. His name was Battle Seeking. Wow, it's really Battle Seeking. I didn't see it wrong. I really didn't see it wrong. He just used infinite sea of chi and small fish swimming. Cries, laughter, and crazy shouts intertwined. The originally quiet combat Elemental Academy completely erupted. Cheers and shouts broke through the dome. Every student seemed to be chasing after their idol, seeing infinite hope. They raised their arms and shouted hysterically, shouting nonstop. The previous lifeless atmosphere disappeared in an instant. The atmosphere was at its peak. In the arena, not only was Huang Shang shocked, but even Lin Feng himself was shocked. What was going on? Brother Lin is battle-seeking? Tao Jing was shocked. Lin Feng battle-seeking? Shui Jin was stunned. All the students of Class 102 were stunned. How could they think of that godlike battle-seeking was actually beside them? He is battle-seeking? Lei Gang's eyes flashed. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and was interested. Beside Lei Gang, Tung Lan frowned in thought. She felt that something was wrong. Behind Tung Lan, Crown Elite Academy's vice principal, Wu Sheng, looked at Lin Feng and scratched his head. He frowned and muttered to himself, very familiar. Where have I seen him before? Chapter 73. Looking for a fight? Huang Shang smiled confidently. You seem to be quite popular. Of course, I'm much more popular than you. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. His eyes lit up and the energy of heaven and earth emerged. Boundless aura sea, first level. The surging waves were 3 meters high. Lin Feng instantly entered battle mode. Cadmium net. Huang Shang was not careless. Both of his hands glowed again. With a shout, electric snakes danced and formed an impenetrable cadmium net. Except for Xiaoling's special ability, niobium force, until now, no one in Zhan College could break his cadmium net. Huangshan was very confident in his best move. With a fierce shout, the cadmium net expanded once again, like a piece of cloth that had been stretched out. Lin Feng's figure appeared in an instant. "Let's end this." Huangshan sneered. His control of cadmium force was comparable to Yu Ming's. The cadmium net surrounded Lin Feng in an instant. This move was invulnerable. Exclamations rose from the stands. Everyone was worried about Lin Feng. 7 spinning slash. First move, Evil Dragon Entanglement. Lin Feng attacked with his blade. The clean and neat movement technique was accompanied by a blade that followed like a shadow. The surging waves were like an unyielding figure in a lone sail, wielding a fierce and powerful blade. The blade was strong and unyielding. Lin Feng went all out as soon as he attacked. His opponent was Huang Shang, who almost won the Rising Star competition under 18 in Luri City last year. Although he was arrogant, he had real strength. "Oh!" Lei Gang and Tung Lan's eyes widened. The moment he attacked, they knew his strength. Impossible. Huang Shang's expression changed. He could feel the terrifying power of the cadmium net rushing towards him. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Second level, double-layer cadmium net, 20,000 volts." The electric current surged, and the cadmium force emerged. Huang Shang was very decisive. His eyes lit up as he drew his flexible sword and went straight for Lin Feng. He had sensed danger, but break for me. The wave behind Lin Feng rose from 3 meters to 5 meters. Lin Feng had already purchased the second level of the limitless sea of qi and cultivated it successfully before he had broken through to the beginner level of the ancient martial general realm. Compared to the Nine Dragons scripture, the comprehension of the boundless sea of qi was too simple. Boom! Lin Feng's attack power could not only be described as terrifying. His abnormal physical strength could reach the attack power of a high-level martial general, even if the energy of heaven and earth burst out with the second layer of the boundless sea of qi. But if he burst out with spirit energy, it was comparable to a beginner-level martial revered. If Huang Shang could master the third layer of the cadmium net, he might be able to block it. But the second layer was far from enough. Pong! After breaking through the double layer of cadmium net, the remaining force caused Huang Shang's hand to go numb, and the flexible sword's electric light dissipated. After all, a person's energy was limited. Huang Shang's main strength was used to control the cadmium net, so his attack power was naturally weak. As for himself, hand-to-hand combat was not his forte. Lin Feng wasn't feeling too good either. The terrifying electric current exceeded tens of thousands of volts. If it wasn't for the spiritual energy that penetrated his body to resist, his body would have been paralyzed long ago. An opponent like this had to be dealt with quickly. 7 spinning slash, the second move, flying fish spin. Lin Feng shouted as his spirit energy burst out. The ash wolf war blade in his hand let out a clanging sound. The unyielding blade intent unleashed a powerful strike, like a flying fish breaking through the waves of the sea. If the evil dragon bind was an attack aimed at the surface, then the flying fish spin was an attack aimed at the point. The power was extremely strong. No! Huang Shang's face was full of shock. The cadmium power burst out to the limit, and the flexible sword in his hand turned into a ball of electric current, trying to block Lin Feng's attack. However, the gray wolf saber flashed with a shocking cold light, and in an instant, it exploded with infinite combat power, even tearing the Geno armor. Boom! In an instant, thunderous shouts and roars erupted from the spectator stands. In the arena, Huang Shang was lying on the ground, his eyes full of disbelief. The Geno armor on his body was broken, and there was a bloody wound on his left shoulder. If Lin Feng had not held back, he would have lost at least one arm. Even so, he was seriously injured. Huang Shang had lost. Compared to the battle a year ago, he had lost even more badly. Sun Jian! Sun Jian! Sun Jian! In the stands, there was an orderly shout. Every student of the Battle College had a satisfied smile on their faces. In their hearts, Sun Jian was a god, an invincible legend. He was invincible. The emperor? The super genius of Crown Elite Academy? So what? Brother Lin is so strong. Tao Jing looked at Lin Feng with admiration, even though she did not know how Lin Feng had become an ancient martial artist. Lin Feng, isn't he in the same class as us? In the 102nd batch, the students of the Geno Battle College had the same question in their minds. How did a Geno Battle College suddenly become an ancient martial artist? Shui Jin swallowed his saliva and looked at Lin Feng with fear and hatred. Guoli was standing in the stands at this moment, completely shocked. And he wasn't the only one. Everyone was shocked by Lin Feng's super strength, including the vice principal of Crown Elite Academy, Wu Sheng. Lin Feng? His name is Lin Feng? Hearing the voices that rang out from time to time, Wu Sheng looked at the figure on the martial arts field in shock. He suddenly thought of the youth that he had kicked out of the house a year and a half ago. The two faces overlapped in an instant. Other than the youth and maturity, there was no other change. Impossible. Wu Sheng muttered to himself and sat down on the VIP chair in shock. Tung Lan squinted his eyes and stared at Lin Feng. His gaze was very complicated. He never thought that there would be someone in the battle college who could defeat Huang Shang. And so young. Lei Gang showed a rare smile and looked at Lin Feng with his sparkling eyes. He was surprised and satisfied. He won. Lin Feng looked at Yu Meng. The latter was looking at him with a charming smile and gave him a thumbs up. Xiao Ling, who was beside him, covered her mouth in disbelief. When she saw him looking at her, she blushed and turned her head to avoid his gaze. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile when he heard the shouts of Sun Jian. They were excited and excited. The battle college was swept away. There was nothing that must be done or not done. Anyway, his identity as an ancient warrior could no longer be kept a secret. He didn't mind exposing his strength. On the contrary, it would make the enemies who were secretly spying on him more cautious. Moreover, as a member of the battle college, he couldn't be indifferent when the college was trampled on like this. People always have feelings. But it seems that everyone only recognizes Sun Jian. Lin Feng smiled. The inspector wants me to go over? Lin Feng was surprised. Congratulations, Lin Feng. Yu Meng showed a meaningful smile. Congratulate me? Lin Feng was slightly startled, but didn't think much about it. He thought that Minter Yu was congratulating him for defeating Huang Shang. Then I'll go over first, Minter Yu. Lin Feng nodded. Go. Yu Meng smiled sweetly and approached Lin Feng. Remember, you owe me an explanation. I'll come and find you. After speaking, a smile appeared on Yu Meng's face as she left with Xia Ling. Lin Feng smiled and walked toward the patrol envoy's office. Sir. Lin Feng bowed respectfully. The red-haired man in front of him was an inspector with a higher status than the dean of the battle college. His strength was unfathomable. Being close to him was like being close to a bloody knife. The knife was extremely shocking. You don't have to be so polite. Just call me Brother Lei. Lei Gang was in a very good mood. He patted Lin Feng's shoulder and said straightforwardly, Come, let me introduce you. This is Inspector Tung Lan, nicknamed Blue Wolf. He is very famous, but unfortunately, he is very narrow-minded. As he spoke, Lei Gang coldly sneered. Lin Feng bowed slightly and looked at Tung Lan, who was wearing blue Geno armor. Greetings, Senior. Not bad, little guy. Tung Lan smiled and raised his eyebrows. I wonder, are you interested in joining our dragon-killing island? Blue Wolf. Lei Gang's eyes turned cold. Tung Lan laughed. It's just a joke. Brother Lei, don't take it seriously. But if you're not happy in the Elemental Business Alliance, you're welcome to join our dragon-killing island. Lin Feng smiled and glanced at the vice dean behind Tung Lan. Then, he looked at Tung Lan. Senior, you're exaggerating. I don't want to be kicked out again. Again? Kicked out? Lei Gang and Tung Lan were stunned. In an instant, Wu Sheng's old face turned deathly pale, and his body trembled uncontrollably. Little brother, what do you mean? Tung Lan stopped smiling and asked suspiciously. Nothing. Lin Feng smiled and looked at Wu Sheng, who was sweating. Vice Dean Wu, thank you for kicking me out a year and a half ago. It allowed me to find my true self. Fortunately, the battle college took me in. I'm grateful. This is where I truly belong. Tung Lan's eyes widened and his facial muscles twitched. He turned his head and looked at Wu Sheng like a ferocious wolf. If Liz could kill Wu Sheng, he would have died thousands of times. Chapter 74. Soon, Blue Wolf and the rest left. Lin Feng followed Lei Gang to the center of the academy base in Area S. Looking around, the huge area of thousands of square meters was filled with the metallic feel of elemental technology. It was like a sea of machines with all kinds of testing equipment and super alloy cultivation rooms. "Attack me," Lei Gang said. "Huh?" Lin Feng was slightly stunned. Full strength. Lei Gang stared at Lin Feng like an unsheathed saber. Instantly, the atmosphere in the center of the base was boiling. Okay. Lin Feng did not refuse. He knew very well that Inspector Lei was probably going to test his strength. Clang! Lin Feng unsheathed Blue Wolf saber. Holding the saber hilt, he could vaguely feel the moisture in his palm. It was not fear or nervousness, but excitement. This was a rare and precious challenge guidance. Spirit Qi. Lin Feng's boundless sea of qi rose as he wished. Unlike when he fought with Huang Shang, this time, he directly used the second level of boundless sea of qi. Facing a 9-star adventurer in front of him, Lin Feng did not need to hide his strength, because he knew very well that even if he unleashed all his strength, he would not be able to hurt Lei Gang at all. 7 spinning slash, second move. Lin Feng's steps were decisive and firm. Flying fish spin. The power of a peak third realm erupted. It was even more powerful than the attack that severely injured Huang Shang. After all, this attack was truly an all-out attack. He did not need to worry about accidentally killing his opponent, because that would definitely not happen. Blood battle art. A bloody shadow appeared behind Lei Gang. A red light flashed in his hand, and a saber appeared instantly. Blood condensed on the blade, and the entire saber was bright red, as if it was burning. The natural energy of the blood battle art gave the saber the color of blood. This was where the name Bloodsword Lei Gang came from. Boom! The two sabers collided violently. A strong vibration came from the saber. Lin Feng's hand went numb, and he almost dropped the saber. Impressive. Lin Feng was shocked. This was Huang Shang's strongest attack, but it could not even break through Lei Gang's simplest defense. Again, Lin Feng was like a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. Lei Gang's expression was indifferent. He raised his blood saber and did not stop Lin Feng. 2 slashes, 3 slashes, 4 slashes. Lin Feng's spirit qi was once again close to exhaustion, but at this time, the red figure's aura changed greatly in an instant. Boom! A ruthless aura surged like blood gushed out. It was like a blade that had returned from hell. The blade intent was filled with the majestic aura of an army of thousands of men and horses, pressing forward courageously. Lin Feng's heart trembled at the bone-deep saber intent. Qi! The saber intent of this saber strike pierced straight into his heart. Pong! The superalloy floor cracked into pieces. Lin Feng remained motionless, but his eyes were burning. This saber move was deeply imprinted in his heart, like a mark that could not be erased. It was as if it was leading him to see a whole new realm of saber techniques. The blurry door in the distance was already flashing with light. Saber technique, level 4. Saber heart. I have a saber in my hand and a saber in my heart. Lei Gang's voice was domineering and awe-inspiring. Lin Feng muttered to himself, "Saber heart and a saber in my heart." Lin Feng did not move just now because he knew that Brother Lei's last saber move was not hostile. It was a demonstration of the realm of saber techniques for him alone. Did you gain anything? Lei Gang stood upright and put away his blood saber. I gained quite a lot. Lin Feng bowed slightly. Thank you for your guidance, Brother Lei. Huh. Laughing heartily, Lei Gang looked at Lin Feng with a pair of fiery eyes. I'm the one who's gained a lot. I thought I was lucky to have recruited a first-grade genius, but I didn't expect that there would be a second first-grade genius. Looking at Lin Feng, Lei Gang's eyes burned with passion. Tell me the truth, Lin Feng. Did you awaken the soul of Earth? Yes. Lin Feng nodded and did not hide the truth. It was very stupid to lie in front of an expert like Brother Lei. Haha, Lei Gang laughed heartily. Actually, I already knew at the battlefield that Lan Lang was not an ancient warrior. How could he know the secret of spiritual qi? Dragon Killing Island is really stupid. They gave us a top genius for free. If Dragon Killing Envoy Wang Lang knew, he would vomit blood. Haha. An ancient warrior awakens the soul of Earth early. It is 100 times rarer and more useful than a genetic expert. 100 times rarer? 100 times more useful? Lin Feng could not help but smile bitterly. This was too exaggerated. Actually, you might already know that Battle College was founded by the Elemental Merchant Alliance. Lei Gang looked at Lin Feng with bright eyes. Now, I formally invite you. Lin Feng, are you willing to join the Elemental Merchant Alliance? Elemental Merchant Alliance. Lin Feng knew a thing or two from Wooly. It was not the strongest or the most powerful, but it was the wealthiest force in ancient Huaxia. It was one of the 3 largest financial groups in the world, and its Elemental Merchant Alliance could be found all over ancient Huaxia. He also had a VIP card with a 10% discount on the Elemental Merchant Alliance. The Elemental Merchant Alliance was one of the top forces in ancient Huaxia. What are the restrictions on me if I join? Lin Feng asked. Lei Gang laughed heartily. As the saying goes, with power comes responsibility. The Elemental Merchant Alliance will train every genius in a plan. Among all the forces, we will definitely invest the most effort and resources. We are also the most willing to spend money. The only thing you have to do is to be loyal. Loyal to the Elemental Merchant Alliance. Loyal to the country. It's that simple. Lin Feng looked at Lei Gang. From his eyes, he could see the passion and determination of a warrior with an unyielding fighting spirit. I agree. Lin Feng nodded. Oh, Lei Gang was surprised. You don't even ask about the benefits? No need. Lin Feng smiled. Because I think I am very suitable for the Elemental Merchant Alliance. Lei Gang was stunned. Suddenly, Lei Gang patted Lin Feng's shoulder approvingly. Very good. I like your attitude. Don't worry. In terms of benefits, if my Elemental Merchant Alliance claims second place, who dares to claim first? How much potential you have, the Elemental Merchant Alliance's financial resources will be the same. We will not treat you badly. Of course, the key to becoming a dragon or a worm is still yourself. Lin Feng smiled. Such domineering words. However, this was the Elemental Merchant Alliance's confidence. Their wealth could rival a country. I will arrange for you to enter the floating elemental island for training. April is too late. Also, I need to prepare your information. Lei Gang muttered. I will come back to the academy on May 1st and bring you to Qin Imperial City to meet the supervisor. Lin Feng nodded. It was necessary to be cautious. After all, he was about to become a real member of the Elemental Merchant Alliance. According to Guo Li, in the Battle College, only students from S area had the possibility. He was officially invited to join the Elemental Merchant Alliance. Brother Lei, I don't know. Can I participate in the Rising Star competition under 18 years old in Lori City? Lin Feng looked at Lei Gang. You want to enter the Qin Emperor's mausoleum? Lei Gang smiled. Lin Feng nodded. He wasn't sure before, but now that he knew that the champion of the Rising Star competition could enter the Qin Emperor's mausoleum for one day and one night, wouldn't it be a pity to miss it? That was an ancient relic. He really wanted to enter and see the mysteries. No need. Lei Gang shook his head and said, the Rising Star competition will only start on June 1st. By then, you will have already entered the floating elemental island. If there are no accidents, you will be designated as a level 1 genius. Naturally, you will be able to enter the ancient relic. Of course, it is not the Qin Emperor's mausoleum. It is unique to our Elemental Merchant Alliance ancient relic. Chapter 75. The Elemental Merchant Alliance also has an ancient ruin? Lin Feng was quite shocked. Don't make a fuss. Lei Gang patted Lin Feng's shoulder. The Elemental Business Alliance is much more powerful than you think. It's just that. Lei Gang wanted to say something, but stopped on second thought. He then smiled valiantly. All right, let's not talk about it. You will know when you enter the Elemental Business Alliance. Your ride is a Volkswagen C7? Lei Gang glanced over and frowned. Lin Feng was slightly surprised and nodded. Take it. Lei Gang took out a crystal watch with gorgeous crystal patterns that looked like a piece of art. Lin Feng reached out and took it. He was shocked. Fergana horse? High quality A3. The market price is about 300 gold coins. Lei Gang said casually, "This is a gift from someone else. I don't need it." Also, Lei Gang took out a red elemental armor from the crystal watch. B3 grade antimony elemental armor. This is my previous armor. Change it with the one you are wearing. Lei Gang was speechless. A genius who could defeat Huang Shang head-on was actually wearing an E9 elemental armor. Lin Feng was a bit stunned. The market price of a B3 elemental battlesuit was 800 gold coins. The antimony elemental armor in front of him was mostly intact except for a little wear and tear. Even if it was sold, it could be sold for at least 500 gold coins. You don't have enough battle points for cultivation, right? Lei Gang took out a golden chip and said, "There are some battle records in this card. You could buy whatever you want if you like the hard or the martial arts. Take these 3 items as Brother Lei's gift to you. Soon, we will be a family." Gift? Lin Feng didn't know what expression he had right now. This gift was too amazing. Even after Lei Gang left, Lin Feng still hadn't recovered from his shock. The Fergana horse A3 was worth 300 gold coins. Minter Yumeng's Fergana horse A6 was only worth 100 gold coins. The B3 elemental armor was needless to say. The B3 grade meant that it could resist the attack of the elemental Beast King. B3. It was simply wearing an impenetrable, bulletproof vest. A gift of more than 1,000 gold coins. Too extravagant. Lin Feng was speechless. Congratulations, Lin Feng. Minter Yumeng's words surfaced in his mind. At this moment, Lin Feng finally understood the meaning behind Minter Yumeng's words and that meaningful smile. As expected of the inspector of the Elemental Merchant Alliance. Rich and overbearing. Outside John College, Guoli had been waiting for a long time. "Sorry to keep you waiting," Lin Feng said apologetically as he rushed over. He had no choice. If the patrol inspector wanted to see him, there was no way he could refuse. "Don't worry, there's still time." Guoli pointed at the crystal watch. "There's still 10 minutes left. It's enough to travel from John College to Sunset Dojo, but..." Guoli looked at Lin Feng and shrugged. "Even if we can make it in time, it doesn't seem to be very useful. I'm afraid that Master will be happy for nothing." Come, let's talk in the car." Guoli's magnetic hover car had blue and black stripes. It was extremely beautiful. However, compared to the Fergana horse series, it was a few grades lower. Especially Lin Feng's Fergana horse A3, it could almost be called a top car. If I'm not wrong, Brother Lin should have joined the Elemental Merchant Alliance, right? Guoli smiled. Yes. Lin Feng didn't hide it from Guoli. I guessed it. Guoli looked helpless. After all, he is the #1 genius of Sunset City. Who would have thought that he would be defeated by Brother Lin in 2 moves? I can guarantee that within a day, the entire Sunset City will be shocked by this news. Sunset Dojo is just a small temple. How can it accommodate a great god like Brother Lin? However, Brother Lin, your decision to join the Elemental Merchant Alliance may be a bit hasty. Guoli said seriously. Why? Lin Feng was curious. Guoli looked at Lin Feng and said, "What is Brother Lin pursuing? Money, fame, or the limit of ancient martial arts?" To become stronger. Lin Feng said 2 words. He had many things that he wanted to do, and the foundation of all of them was to become stronger. That's right. Guoli's expression was serious. For us ancient martial artists, what is the most important thing to become stronger? It is nothing more than mental and martial arts. Guoli's eyes were bright. The Elemental Merchant Alliance is indeed rich, but money is not everything. Money can't buy the best mental and martial arts. For ancient martial artists who want to become stronger, the real choice should be the 4 major ancient martial arts dojos, especially the True Martial Dojo. The True Martial Dojo? Lin Feng's eyes brightened. The name seemed to be related to the true martial emperor. It's my fault that I didn't have time to remind you. Guoli sighed and suddenly thought of something. Right, the inspector should still need to verify the information, so it won't be so fast. It's just a verbal promise. Brother Lin, you can still go back on your words. If you can enter the true martial dojo, you may even be able to receive the true martial emperor's guidance. That is the true future. No, Brother Gua. Lin Feng smiled and refused. A verbal promise was still a promise. Even if he had to choose again, he would still join the Elemental Merchant Alliance. When drinking water, one had to think of the source. Mental and martial arts were indeed important, but his big brother had taught him since he was young that the most important thing for a real strong person was to have the heart of a strong person. Sunset Dojo, a strong aura of ancient martial arts. As Guoli stepped into the dojo, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly brightened. There were dozens of large martial arts dojos on both sides. The air was filled with sweat and violent fluctuations of heaven and earth energy. From time to time, there were deep shouts. The aura of martial arts was very strong. There were at least thousands of ancient martial artists. Looking into the distance, there were buildings rising and falling one after another. They were filled with a quaint aura, like the style of a small house in Jiangnan. He was used to seeing high-tech high-rise buildings, but there was a different feeling here. A very comfortable environment. Lin Feng walked on the sandy path. The sun was high in the open dojo, but did not dampen the interest of the ancient martial artists. Compared to the genetic warriors, the cultivation of ancient martial artists was much more difficult, especially the tempering of the body. It was not something that could be done overnight. Senior brother Gua. There were constant voices around. Guoli was also quite famous in the dojo. Lin Feng glanced around. In fact, many of the ancient martial artists were older than Guoli, but in the dojo, it was not age that mattered, but experience and strength. The young man next to senior brother Gua looks unfamiliar. Yeah, he doesn't seem to be from Sunset Dojo. Stop guessing. Let me tell you, he's the one I told you about just now. Sun Jian. His real name is Lin Feng. Damn, is he for real? He is the monster who defeated the Emperor in 2 moves? That's right, stinky fish. Don't joke around. That is the Emperor. He is the favorite to win this year's Rising Star competition under 18 in Sunset City. I'm not lying to you. Stinky Fish is telling the truth. I just came back from the academy. There was a lot of discussion. Sunset Dojo accounted for more than half of the students in the ancient martial arts branch of Zhan College. News travels really fast, Lin Feng said with a smile. In a few hours, everyone in Sunset City will know. Gualisha smiled. Brother Lin, you're going to make a name for yourself this time. Become famous in one battle? Lin Feng smiled. Guoli glanced at the crystal watch and opened the message. Master has arrived. Looking up at Lin Feng, Guoli smiled. It's rare to see Master in such a hurry, but I'm afraid he will be happy for nothing this time. Elements Merchant Alliance, Sunset Dojo. The gap was quite big. Sunset Dojo. Lin Feng walked through the sandy road and entered a magnificent dojo. His eyes were shining faintly. Back then, he had almost entered the Sunset Dojo. I wonder if Senior Old Flagon is easy to talk to. Lin Feng whispered in his heart. However, he had another objective for this trip to the Sunset Dojo. Chapter 76. Sunset Dojo, top floor. This was the place the dojo used to receive important guests. Looks like Master already knows. Guoli Nua said. News travels too fast. Lin Feng walked up the marble stairs, slightly surprised. His fight with Huang Shang had only ended an hour ago. Haha, I don't dare to say anything else, but in terms of information in Sunset City, the vice leaders of the 4 martial institutions are far inferior to Master. Guoli looked at Lin Feng with a smile. If we summon the younger disciples and invite them to join the dojo, it will be on the 1st floor. We are now going to the top floor, which is used to receive VIPs who are at the martial supremacy level. Martial supremacy level? Lin Feng was slightly startled. Brother Lin was able to defeat Huang Shang, so naturally you are at this level. Guoli smiled. Lin Feng nodded. It seemed that Huang Shang had become his stepping stone. Stepping onto the top floor, the layout was completely different. The majestic and grand design of the building, The various ancient paintings and carvings gave a feeling of returning to simplicity. Except, there was a faint smell of wine in the air. Master, Guoli had a helpless expression. Greetings, Senior. Lin Feng bowed slightly. He had heard that Senior Wine Flask was good at drinking wine, and it was indeed true. Sit, little guy. Are you willing to drink with this old drunkard? Hu Jio moved his nose and chuckled. My pleasure. Lin Feng sat down. There was no teapot on the tea table in front of him, only a few wine flasks with carved dragons. They had a fruity aroma and a unique taste of wine. Other than the wine flasks, there were all kinds of fragrant meats on the tea table, which whetted one's appetite. Refreshing. Hu Jio laughed. No need to be restrained. This old drunkard is a bore. Drinking wine and eating meat in big mouthfuls. This is life. Lin Feng smiled and filled his cup. No matter what, to be able to get to know such an important person in Sunset City for him. There were many benefits. Junior will first toast to Senior. Good. After 3 rounds of drinking, they became more familiar with each other. For Lin Feng, unless he wanted to get drunk, his spiritual energy could directly eliminate the effects of the alcohol. At this moment, I say, old wine pot, aren't you being unkind? Hearty laughter rang out, and a figure as fast as a knife appeared on the top floor in an instant. From below came the noisy voices of the martial arts school students. Hu Jio rolled his eyes and glared. What are you doing here, martial madman? Lin Feng looked over. It was a middle-aged man with thick eyebrows. His hair was slightly messy, and his thin brow bone was like a steel knife. What a powerful saber intent. Lin Feng sensed from this middle-aged man, named Martial Madman, a fierce saber intent that was very similar to Brother Lei's. His body and heart seemed to have merged with the saber. It was a wonderful feeling that stirred his heart. Fourth realm, Lin Feng muttered. The man with thick eyebrows chuckled and said, I smelled the fragrance of wine, so I came over to rub my nose in it. Really? The Cold Blade sect is so far away and you can smell it? Hu Jio was speechless. At this time, many students ran up in a panic. Before they could say anything, Hu Jio frowned and waved his hand. It's okay. All of you can leave now. Yes, sir, the students answered submissively. Yo, this little brother looks unfamiliar. The man with thick eyebrows didn't hesitate to sit down next to Lin Feng. He picked up a piece of meat and began to chew. He grinned and said, Let me introduce myself. I'm a vice leader of the Cold Blade sect, Feng Wu. Little brother, are you interested in joining the Cold Blade sect? Greetings, Senior, Lin Feng said respectfully. The Cold Blade sect was one of the 4 major martial arts schools in Sunset City. He wanted to join the Cold Blade sect the most. It was the only one of the 4 martial arts schools that was famous for its saber. All right, Martial Madman, stop playing tricks over there. Hu Jio was infuriated. You're really something. You actually planted a spy in my dojo. But you're still one step too late. I advise you not to waste your energy. Lin Feng will never join the Cold Blade School. Feng Wu glared at him. Old wine pot, don't try to trick me. I don't believe you can reach an agreement so quickly. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He finally understood what was going on. Please use your brain. What is this place? Hu Jio pointed to the ground. When did you see me accepting disciples here? Feng Wu paused and scratched his head. That's true. This little guy in front of you, Lin Feng, defeated Huang Shang fair and square in Zhan College an hour ago. Tell me, as a dignified vice sect master, aren't you a little too ill-informed? Hu Jio poured a glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. Huang Shang, the emperor of the Crown Elite Academy? Feng Wu glared. Exactly. Hu Jio pretended to be helpless. So, we didn't even get a chance to recruit him. The Elemental Merchant Alliance took him away. Feng Wu looked at Lin Feng. I'm sorry, Senior. Lin Feng smiled apologetically. All right. Feng Wu's face was dejected. The 4 major martial arts sects were indeed stronger than the Sunset Dojo, but they were completely incomparable to a giant like the Elemental Business Alliance. The Elemental Business Alliance was a transcendent existence on par with the true martial arts dojo, the head of the 4 major martial arts dojo. Lin Feng, I'll remember your name. You defeated that emperor. Not bad. Feng Wu narrowed his eyes. If you have the chance, come to the Cold Blade sect. I'll treat you. Okay, senior. Lin Feng nodded with a smile. All right, you guys take your time. I won't disturb you. Haha, Feng Wu smiled and left with a bitter face. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. He had heard that the vice leader of the Cold Blade sect, Feng Wu, was cold, but the real person was very interesting. The appearance of the martial madman, Feng Wu, was just a small interlude, but it also showed the strength of the four martial art schools. Even if all the martial artists of the four martial art schools combined were less than half of the Sunset Dojo, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. The martial arts schools recruited elite martial artists. The students of the Sunset Dojo were mostly ordinary ancient warriors, and their standards varied. Little Feng, you and I hit it off. I'll get straight to the point. Hujio drank the wine in his hand and said, On behalf of the Sunset Dojo, I would like to invite you to join us. Of course, you won't be a disciple, but a part-time special instructor. You don't need to do anything. You just need to have a name. It won't affect your joining the Elemental Merchant Alliance. Oh, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. The dojo won't mistreat you. Hujio said seriously, you can also get all the benefits of a special class instructor in the dojo, including the practice of most of the mental cultivation techniques in the dojo, a salary of 30 gold coins a month, a C9 elemental armor, a C9 saber, and a special class instructor's dorm. This was an investment. Lin Feng clearly understood Old Wine Pot's intention. What was the difference between a martial arts school and a martial arts school? An expert. An expert, that was the pillar of the martial arts school. Behind every martial arts school, there was an existence that surpassed the revered ancient martial artist level. But the dojo didn't. Old Wine Pot was gambling. He was gambling that he could one day become a transcendent existence that surpassed the revered ancient martial artist level and strengthen the reputation of the Sunset Dojo, standing shoulder to shoulder with the other four martial arts schools. 3 conditions. Lin Feng stretched out 3 fingers. Just say it. Hujio's eyes were blazing with excitement. Actually, he was just casually mentioning it. He didn't think that Lin Feng would really agree. I want my mother and sister to move into the dorm. I'll have to trouble Senior to take care of my family. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Of all the benefits offered by Old Wine Pot, he only cared about one thing. Senior Instructor's dorm. Although Ping'an District was also safe, it was better to be safe than sorry. The special grade instructor's dorm was in the Sunset Dojo. If his mother and sister moved in, he wouldn't have to worry about their safety. Hujio laughed heartily and patted his chest. Leave it to me. Lin Feng nodded. Also, I'll have to trouble Senior to arrange for my sister to enter the Sunset City's Elementary Genetic Academy. Although they were both elementary genetic academies, the Sunset Cities was naturally better than the Jiaoyang districts. Moreover, after moving in, they would be closer to the academy. Hujio smiled and said, It's a small matter. Lin Feng smiled. Then there's no problem. Lastly, I wonder if Senior can help me convert the other benefits? Hujio was stunned. He then laughed out loud. Welcome to the Sunset Dojo, Special Grade Instructor Lin Feng. It's my honor. The dust had settled. Actually, to a level 1 genius, the benefits weren't considered good. Especially Lin Feng's potential was far beyond that of a level 1 genius. However, to Lin Feng, these weren't important. How could the benefits of the Sunset Dojo be compared to the Elemental Commerce Alliance, whose wealth was comparable to that of country? What Lin Feng cared about the most was the safety of his family. To him, these were things that couldn't be measured with money. Swish! Like a beam of fiery light breaking through the sky, the fiery red color streaked across the sky, leaving behind many afterimages. It was like a blazing horse, causing people to gasp in admiration. Sitting in the Fergana horse A3, Lin Feng revealed a smile. There were 70 gold coins in his pocket after being converted to cash. Go and fetch my sister from the academy. And I'll give my mother a call first. Chapter 77. Jiaoyang District's Elementary Genetic Academy. Swish! The A3 Fergana horse let out an intense cry. The electromagnetic resistance forcefully stopped the speeding body of the car. Many heads popped out from the academy's building, filled with great curiosity. The loose crowd at the entrance all stopped in their tracks, staring at the red and extremely smooth body of the car. It had an extremely strong charm that could bewitch one's heart. A3, Fergana horse? My eyes aren't playing tricks on me, right? It's a genuine one. Wow, do you see the logo on the front of the car? This is a high-end model, one that costs 300 gold coins. Gasps of surprise could be heard everywhere. In Jiaoyang District, this was basically the highest grade car that could be seen. All the students were incomparably astonished. Hua, Lin Feng opened the car door and jumped down. Ta! Landing gracefully on the ground. Lin Feng pressed down on the crystal watch and put away the A3 Fergana horse in a split second. The surrounding gazes looked over with a blank expression. However, Lin Feng was already used to it. He casually took 2 steps and disappeared from everyone's line of sight. Teacher's Center. Have you heard? A big shot came to our academy. Who is it? I'm not sure either. I heard from the students that a handsome young man who came riding a high-end A3 Fergana horse. The more the rumors spread, the more ridiculous they are. How can there be so many rich second generations? Am I right, Ru Shuang? A blue-clothed man smiled embarrassedly. Am I right? In Ru Shuang smiled calmly. That's really exaggerated. The blue-clothed man pursed his lips and suddenly smiled fawningly. All right, Ru Shuang, it's your birthday the day after tomorrow. Why don't I help you organize a large-scale party? No need. Thank you. In Ru Shuang rejected tactfully. The blue-clothed man had a look of disappointment. Then, why don't you tell me what present you want? Wang Jun, aren't you asking the obvious? A beautiful girl beside In Ru Shuang smiled. Everyone knows that Sister Ru Shuang has been saving money to buy a high-grade magnesium heart. If you really want to pursue her, why don't you be more generous? Who knows, you might be able to move Sister Ru Shuang's heart. That's enough, Kaixia. Don't talk nonsense. In Ru Shuang reprimanded lightly. The blue-clothed man, Wang Jun, chuckled, but his smile was somewhat unnatural. What a joke. D-grade magnesium heart? Even the cheapest D9 cost 10 gold coins. If he could afford it, and he wanted to be a teacher, in the academy's dormitory. Brother, what happened? Lin Yuer asked nervously. It's nothing. I'm just helping you change schools. Lin Feng smiled calmly. Have you got everything? Yes, it's all here. Yuer looked at Lin Feng and suddenly thought of something. She asked, by the way, brother, did you see a very handsome young man driving a high-spec Fergana A3? Lin Feng was slightly taken aback. What's wrong? Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. I really want to see what she looks like. Yuer pouted and clenched her fists. Her eyes were heart-shaped. Brother, you don't know, but many girls have gone outside the academy to watch. Is that so? Lin Feng said casually. That's right. Lin Yuer looked out of the courtyard from time to time and said hopefully, who knows, he might be a Prince Charming. Prince Charming? Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. Then you might be very disappointed. Yuer's eyes widened. Brother, you seen him? Did I say that? Brother, you lied to Yuer. Teacher's Center. Lin Feng entered with his sister Yuer. Having been in the academy for 6 years, he was naturally more familiar with the place than his sister. It just so happened that Yuer and he were separated by 6 years. The one teaching Yuer was still Teacher In. Lin Feng? In Ru Shuang couldn't help but be surprised. Hello, Teacher In. Lin Feng bowed slightly. Although his strength had long surpassed Teacher In, he still respected her in his heart. Without Teacher In, how could he be who he is now? Good. In Ru Shuang smiled cheerfully. Lin Feng, aren't you in John Academy? Why are you free to come here today? It's like this, Teacher In. I want to help Yuer with the transfer procedures, Lin Feng said. Transfer? The surrounding teacher's ears perked up. Hey, little guy, where are you transferring to? A beautiful girl beside In Ru Shuang, Kaixia, asked curiously. After all, there was only one elementary genetic academy in Jiaoyang District. Luori City's Elementary Genetic Academy. Lin Feng didn't hide it. Oh, not bad. Discussions broke out in the surroundings. They were both elementary genetic academies, but Luori cities was naturally much better than Jiayang districts. In Rushuang's beautiful eyes flickered as she asked, curiously, "It should be very troublesome to transfer in, right?" Lin Feng nodded. Luckily, Old Wine Pot agreed to help me. Old Wine Pot. All the teachers widened their eyes. That was a legendary figure in Luori City. Little guy, you know Old Wine Pot? The beautiful girl, Kai Xia, covered her mouth in shock. You don't even know how to brag. The blue-clothed man, Wang Jun, snorted. He is the supervisor of Luori Dojo. He has a lot of things to deal with every day. Why would he care about such trivial matters? Lin Feng smiled. He didn't explain too much. Please help me with the procedures, Teacher Yin. And wait a moment. In Rushuang smiled faintly. Lin Feng, the competition in Battle Academy is very intense, right? Kai Xiao was familiar with Lin Feng. And it's all right. Battle World is very fun, right? Are you a level 2 battle star? Yes. Oh, not bad. All right. How did you get to know Old Wine Pot? Kai Xia asked curiously. He was looking for me for something. On the other side, In Rushuang quickly finished the procedures and smiled. All right, Kai Xia. You scared Lin Feng with your gossip. As she spoke, she handed over a sorted document. In Rushuang looked at Lin Feng and smiled. Remember, you have to work as hard as before in Battle Academy. I believe that for you, setbacks and failures are only temporary. Lin Feng felt a warmth in his heart. He knew what Teacher Yin was referring to. Even when his brain was at its most dispirited, Teacher Yin had never given up on him. Thank you, Teacher Yin. Lin Feng smiled and raised his left hand. A crystal watch with gorgeous crystal patterns appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Even his sister, Yu who was on his right, widened her eyes in disbelief. Whoosh, a light flashed. Lin Feng took out a brocade box and handed it over with both hands. Teacher Yin, I heard from you that your birthday is the day after tomorrow. Thank you for taking care of me for the past 6 years. This is a small gift from your student. Lin Feng bowed slightly to the stunned Teacher Yin. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. Goodbye, Teacher Yin. Goodbye, teachers. With you, Lin Feng waved goodbye to the teachers. Then he left, leaving behind a group of stunned teachers who were unable to recover for a long time. Am I seeing things? Is that a Fergana horse A3? Kai Xia said in surprise. It's fake. How can a student like him afford it? Wang Jun frowned and sneered. That's a horse with a market price of 300 gold coins. That's 30,000 silver coins. Even high-level genetic warriors like us, who earn 100 silver coins a month, can't afford it, even if we don't eat or drink for 20 years. He's just a student. Unfortunately, no one listened to him. Everyone's eyes were focused on the brocade box in Rushuang's hand. Rushuang, open it and see what kind of birthday present it is. I want it too. Kai Xia touched her cheeks like a young girl who was in love for the first time. That's right, Rushuang. Open our eyes. What kind of surprise is it? The surrounding teachers were all jeering. Rushuang smiled and said, Actually, the heart is already the best present. It's even better if it's both thoughtful and valuable. Kai Xia smiled. What can such a small box contain? Wang Jun's mouth was full of jealousy. He curled his lips and muttered, It's nothing more than some trinkets like jewelry. Before he finished speaking, Wang Jun was already stunned. Rushuang opened the brocade box. Her white, jade-like hands trembled slightly, and her beautiful eyes were completely covered by the bright white light in front of her. Whoosh! The beautiful white light illuminated the entire teacher's center. It was a crystal-clear, white, heart-shaped crystal, perfect and flawless, exuding an extremely rich light energy. D4, level light core system, magnesium heart. Market price, 60 gold coins. Brother, is this real? Sister Lin Yuter asked, pointing to the crystal watch. Of course it's real. Lin Feng smiled. Fergana horse A3. High quality? Yuter said word by word, looking at Lin Feng. The person they're talking about is you, brother. Not me. Lin Feng shook his head. Yuer looked disappointed. I'm not as handsome as they say, like a prince on a white horse. Lin Feng smiled slyly. Brother, you're laughing at me. Yuer said coquettishly. Whoosh! Lin Feng took his sister Yuer and left as fast as lightning. The surrounding crowd looked at them with envy. The entire entrance of the academy was filled with people, both men and women. The boys' eyes were filled with worship and reverence, while the girls' eyes were filled with adoration. If only I had such a boyfriend. Stop dreaming. Driving a Fergana horse, a 3. What kind of status does he have? A super rich second generation? No, if I'm not wrong, he should be the one who just graduated 4 months ago. Senior Lin Feng. At that time, he even created an unprecedented 10th class genius title. I didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, Lin Feng would become a dragon among men. 10th class genius? Ah, are you talking about that senior Lin Feng whose mind expanse regressed? It can't be, right? In midair, the Fergana horse, A3, streaked across a red afterimage. Its speed was extremely fast. Wow, it's the real thing. It feels so good. Ewer was jumping around, unable to stop for even a moment. She touched here and there in excitement. Lin Feng smiled. His younger sister was lively by nature and had a soft spot for cars. To her, this car was like a beloved toy. All right, brother, what did you give the Minerine just now? D4 magnesium core. Lin Feng said. This D4 magnesium core was a special gift from the Battle Academy. He had no use for it and couldn't sell it. It was naturally good to do her a favor. Moreover, he knew that instructor Ian had been saving up all this time to buy a high-grade magnesium heart. It was also a small token of appreciation. Brother, did you pick up a huge treasure? Ewer's beautiful eyes widened. You can say so. Lin Feng smiled. I'll tell you when we get back. Mom has already prepared a meal and is waiting for us. Really? That's great. Chapter 78. Sure family, Jiaoyang District. It's him. It must be him. Shi Zhong sat on the leather sofa, his veins popping out. A man with brown eyebrows appeared on the microprojection in front of him. He was dressed in a police uniform and was none other than Inspector Zhong Lei of Jiaoyang District. His expression was solemn as he said, Uncle Shi, this is all I have to say. As for the rest, you could decide on your own. Let me remind you that although I don't know what happened, Lin Feng is very strong. I think we should inform Wu Long about this as soon as possible. Bang! The video ended immediately. Shi Zhong clenched his fists. His eyes were bloodshot. In the past 2 months, he had been searching for the murderer's identity, even forgetting to eat and sleep. The most suspicious person was Lin Feng. However, he was not sure. Lin Feng was a Jin warrior, but the murderer was an ancient warrior. But now, all his doubts were gone. Master, L.V. Chung, the 4-star bodyguard, said hesitantly. Say no more. Shi Zhong's face was cold. A life for a life. If I can't even avenge my son, how can I survive in the future? Shi Zhong's eyes were bloodshot. I just caught his sister. So what if he raped her? I'll just marry her and bring her home. The Lin family should be grateful to us. L.V. Chung sighed in his heart. He knew about Shi Wenlong's misdeeds. But now, it was useless to say anything. Shi Zhong had long been enraged. But Master, according to Inspector Zhong, Lin Feng is very powerful. Shall we inform young Master? L.V. Chung said. Wu Long is training with the Dragon Killing Wind Team. The competition on Dragon Killing Island is fierce. Don't disturb him. The Shi family's future depends on Wu Long. Shi Zhong's tense face relaxed a little when he mentioned Shi Wulong. He was Zhong Lei's childhood friend. Zhong Lei was just an inspector of Jiaoyang District. Shi Wulong had a bright future. Then, L.V. Chung frowned. There's no need to rush. He's in the light while we're in the dark. We'll play him to death slowly. Shi Zhong's gaze was vicious. Money can do anything. So what if he's a high-level general? Even if I have to go bankrupt, I still want his life. But before that, I will make him wish he was dead, step by step. He cares about his family the most, so I'll kill his mother and sister first. At this moment, Shi Zhong looked as if he had been possessed by a demon. L.V. Cheng's body trembled. Suddenly, he remembered that the man in front of him, who looked weak, used to be a Geno warrior who spent a lot of time in the ruins. He had seen all kinds of fights, but after he became a businessman, he hid his fierceness. Old Master, If we were to deal with the family of an ancient martial art practitioner, a light punishment would be death. A heavy punishment might even implicate the entire clan. Lu Cheng was fearful. Shi Zhong snorted coldly. I'm not stupid enough to do it myself. There are so many ordinary people in Ping and District. I can bribe a few of them. Humph! What's so hard about creating some special accidents in the district? The Ancient Martial Art Alliance won't even investigate the disputes between ordinary people. LV Cheng's eyes lit up. Old Master is wise. I'll do it right away. Shi Zhong nodded and revealed a ferocious look. Do it cleanly. Yes, Old Master. At this moment, Ping and District was in an uproar. The magnetic suspension car represented the strength and status of a warrior. The Fergana Horse A3 was a high-spec one and was no doubt the best of the best. It was rare, even in Luori City. It was definitely a battle grandmaster-level vehicle. In Jiang District, the number of people who owned such a vehicle could be counted on one hand. It's Ruhua's son, Lin Feng. I saw it just now. When I heard the roaring sound and saw it from the window, I was shocked. It costs 300 gold coins. Didn't Xiao Feng just enter the battle college? Where did he get so much money? This was definitely the hottest topic since the establishment of Ping and District. After all, Ping and District wasn't considered a high-class district. The people here had enough to eat and wear, but not enough to be rich. The truly rich people would buy bungalows or even villas. For example, the Shi family had a bungalow and even had guards guarding it. Lin Feng's return shocked everyone. In every household in Ping and District, the words, "other people's children," echoed throughout the night. Lin Feng's home was warm and natural. The family gathered around the table to eat. There was a faint sense of happiness in this ordinary life. What? Brother, you become a special instructor at the Sunset Dojo? Lin Yu widened her eyes. His mother, Jiru Hua, just smiled. Lin Feng nodded and said softly, "Pack your things tonight. We'll move in tomorrow morning." A special instructor at the dojo has a monthly salary of 30 gold coins. Mom, this money will be our family's expenses in the future. 30 gold coins? Expenses every month? Yu was stunned. Feng, what do you plan to do after this? Jiru Hua asked. There's still half a month left. I want to go to the ruin world to train. I'll come back at the end of the month and enter the Qin Imperial City with Brother Leon Mei first. Lin Feng muttered, I'll ask God Dr. Kai to treat Ollie first. Then, I'll meet with the supervisor and enter the floating elemental island. To Lin Feng, treating Ollie was a huge matter. It was much more important than entering the floating elemental island. However, the money wasn't enough. Elemental Merchant Alliance. Jiru Huang murmured and smiled. Be careful. Lin Feng smiled. Don't worry, Mom. With his current strength, entering the ruin world was no problem. The next morning, a ray of sunlight shone down, making it feel warm. Old people could be seen doing morning exercises in the district. Lin Feng's house was bustling with noise and excitement. Little Feng, come back when you're free. Ruhua, you've finally seen the light of day. Your son has made a name for himself. My son, Sai, he's still sloppy. To be able to settle down in Sunset City, I'm so envious, Ruhua. Don't forget about me and Rong. Parting was always a sad thing. Especially after living in Ping and District for so many years, it was inevitable that they would feel reluctant, including Lin Feng himself. However, one had to look forward. Moving into Sunset Dojo. Lin Feng didn't make a big fuss about it. After all, he didn't want to attract attention. Guo Li and the other students of Battle College came to help. In just a short morning, the complicated moving work was completed. One had to admit that the treatment of Sunset Dojo was quite good. Special Instructor Dormitory. It was more than 500 square meters, with 3 floors and an underground training room. There was also a small courtyard with a pleasant fragrance. It was unique. TSK, garden bungalows. Sunset Dojo only has about 20 of them, Guoli said enviously. The environment is better than I thought. Lin Feng smiled. Birds chirped, flowers bloomed, and the scenery was pleasant. Most importantly, it was very safe. It was impossible for outsiders to enter. I'll have to trouble you guys today. Lin Feng smiled. It's a small matter. Guoli said. By the way, I heard from you that you're preparing to go to the ruined world. Is it C02? C02? Lin Feng was surprised. How did you know? He didn't mention it to you in such detail. Ruin C02 was the first place he entered. It's not easy to guess. Guoli looked at him with a matter-of-fact expression. A few months ago, there was a rumor that there were rare earth elements in Ruin C02. At first, I thought it was just a rumor. Who would have thought it was true? At the end of last month, a 7-man team returned from Ruin C02 with a total of 30,000 gold coins worth of rare earth elements. This time, the entire Sunset City is boiling. Lin Feng was shocked when he heard this. 30,000 gold coins? A high-level revered martial artist couldn't even earn 10,000 gold coins in a month. Rare earth elements. Lin Feng muttered to himself. Previously, by chance, he had also obtained some heavy rare earth element erbium. Although it was only powder, only 24 milligrams, it was worth nearly 30 gold coins. It was quite shocking. The 30,000 gold coins mentioned by Guoli seemed to be a lot, but at 2 gold coins per milligram, it was only 25 grams, not even half a kilogram. Not to mention the generals, even the revered martial artists from the surrounding cities are flocking to Ruin C02. It's very lively now. Guoli smiled. Lin Feng nodded. If it was beneficial, there would naturally be people fighting for it. Not to mention rare earth elements were precious. Apart from the legendary revered martial artists, who wouldn't be tempted? To tell you the truth, Brother Lin, Ge, and a few friends from area, they have formed a 7-man team of adventurers. We're also preparing to enter Ruin C02 to try our luck. Guoli said as he looked at Lin Feng with envy. However, we can only explore the outer regions. We can't compare to Brother Lin. With Brother Lin's strength, I'm afraid that you can even go to the depths of Ruin C02. Is that so? Lin Feng smiled. Back then, he couldn't even enter the periphery of Ruin C02. Come, I wish us good luck and earn enough. Guoli smiled and extended his fist. Good luck. Lin Feng also extended his fist. After settling everything, there was nothing wrong. This included his sister's transfer into the Elementary Genetic Academy of Sunset City. She didn't even need to take the Mind Expanse test. Old Wine Pot could be said to be able to call the wind and summon the rain in Sunset City. Lin Feng then returned to the Battle College. Before entering Ruin C02, he still had a lot of work to do. Area S, Dorm 102-100. Gene fluid, enough elementary gene fluid? No. Intermediate gene fluid. The third level of Boundless Sea of Qi, the swimming little fish movement technique, as well as the 5th and 6th moves of 7 spinning slash. At least a few thousand battle points. TSK. I wonder if the crystal card that Brother Lei gave me is enough battle points. He was filled with anticipation. Lin Feng then placed the golden crystal card in front of the superbrain sensor. Beep. Following the beep from the sensor, a clear number flashed on the screen. Lin Feng took a deep breath and widened his eyes in shock. Did he see wrongly? Chapter 79. So many zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I didn't count wrongly, right? There are actually 5 zeros. Lin Feng smiled bitterly and shook his head. 6 digits worth of battle points. A total of 100,000 battle points. What a huge sum. Lin Feng was indeed shocked. So far, he had earned less than 10,000 battle points in the world of war, and all of a sudden, an extra 100,000 battle points? The battle points in the world of combat didn't have a fixed value, but if they were to be converted into silver coins, each battle point would be worth about 1 to 3 silver coins. In other words, 100,000 battle points were equivalent to 1,000 to 3,000 gold coins. Moreover, ancient martial arts heart and martial arts techniques of a yellow rank and above couldn't be purchased on the market. In other words, they could only be exchanged with battle points. I didn't expect these 3 greeting gifts to be the most precious. Lin Feng looked at the numbers on the screen and confirmed once again. Hua! A light flashed, and the battle points were added to his account. To an expert at Brother Lei's level, Thousands of gold coins were just a few days' worth of hunting. But to him, this was an incomparably huge asset. What couldn't he buy in the world of combat? Lin Feng instantly activated his cheat code. Plus, Level 5 War Star, 1,000 battle points. Level 6 War Star, 3,000 battle points. Level 7 War Star, 10,000 battle points. What a shocking consumption. Lin Feng smiled helplessly, but there was nothing he could do. The fourth level of the Limitless Sea of Aura was Mystic Rank Level 8 and could only be purchased by a Level 7 War Star. The 7 Spinning Slash was Mystic Rank Level 7 and also required a Level 7 War Star. Only the Small Fish Swimming Movement technique could be purchased by a Level 6 War Star. One couldn't catch a wolf without sacrificing a child. Heart and martial arts techniques were extremely important to ancient martial artists. One word: expensive. I thought 100,000 battle points was a lot. Lin Feng muttered. It was no wonder that Brother Lei said that he couldn't afford to buy a cultivation technique. Boundless Sea of Qi. 300 battle points for the first level, 1,000 battle points for the second level, 4,500 battle points for the third level, 24,000 battle points for the fourth level, a total of 29,800 battle points. 7 Spinning Slash was slightly cheaper, but the total cost was still 11,200 battle points. Plus Little Fish Swims, 5,000 battle points. This set cost him 46,000 battle points. It's almost 50% cheaper than Blood Battle Arts, Lin Feng thought. The most expensive item in the world of war was the Blood Battle Art. The entire set cost more than 80,000 battle points. Brother Lei cultivated this heart technique, which was known for its attack power. I still have 40,000 battle points. Lin Feng looked at his account and immediately went to purchase the Gene Fluid. Unlike ordinary ancient martial artists, he also desired the Gene Fluid. Especially when he was training in the ruins, he did not have much time to cultivate the energy of heaven and earth. Soaking in it to absorb genetic energy could help him increase his mind expanse at a faster rate. Increase his strength. Elementary Gene Fluid, 10 battle points. Mid-grade Gene Fluid, 20 battle points. High-grade Gene Fluid, 50 battle points. Lin Feng's hand, which was hanging in the air, stopped. By mid-grade Gene Fluid, the absorption of the Gene Fluid depends on the physique of the Gene Warrior. Elementary Gene Fluid is for the Genetic Warrior level. Mid-grade Gene Fluid is for the Gene Warrior level. And high-grade Gene Fluid, Gene Warrior level. Although I am an elementary ancient martial general, my physique is comparable to that of an advanced ancient martial general. The physique of an ancient martial artist is generally stronger than a Gene Warrior level 1. My body should be able to absorb the high-grade Gene Fluid. Lin Feng calculated in his mind. There was a difference in cultivation speed between each grade of Gene Fluid. If he soaked in the high-grade Gene Fluid, his cultivation speed would be doubled compared to the mid-grade Gene Fluid. This is it. Lin Feng pressed the button. There were 50 bottles of Gene Fluid in each box, and he could get a 20% discount, which was exactly 2,000 battle points. 5 boxes, 250 bottles, and a total of 10,000 battle points. Since I bought the high-grade Gene Fluid, I'll also buy the high-grade Gene Nutrition Cabin. That's 10,000 battle points. Lin Feng didn't feel bad about spending the free battle points. High-grade Gene Nutrition Cabins couldn't be bought in the outside world, even if one had the money. Only Level 7 War Stars could buy them in Battle College. Gene Nutrition Cabins, Gene Fluid, and the Gene Warrior's aptitude determined the cultivation speed. 100,000 battle points, only 20,000 left in the blink of an eye. Lin Feng smiled and looked at the top of the exchange space. It was gray. Including his personal information, Level 7 War Star was the highest Level 1 could reach in Battle World. There should be even higher. Lin Feng was certain, because behind Battle World was the rich Elemental Business Alliance. These are just some of the mental formulas and martial arts that are public. Lin Feng quickly came to a conclusion. After all, students who graduated from Battle College might not necessarily join the Elemental Business Alliance. Why would the Elemental Business Alliance release the best mental formulas and martial arts to the public? As for Level 7 War Star being the top, that was because Level 7 War Star was equivalent to a martial warrior. The Elemental Business Alliance would definitely send out an official invitation. I believe the floating elemental island is the real battle world of the Elemental Business Alliance. Lin Feng's eyes brightened as he looked forward to it. Brother Lei had mentioned that the Elemental Business Alliance had a unique ancient relic. It must have hidden a powerful force, a big sweep. In the end, Lin Feng bought a mystic level 9 chi art, iron shirt, and exited the exchange space. He was left with just over 10,000 battle points. They were basically all used up. Good steel should be used on the blade. Lin Feng wouldn't hide his battle points. So what if he used them up? The resources he bought this time were enough to raise his strength to a beginner ancient martial warrior. Now that he was a beginner ancient martial general, his strength was comparable to a beginner ancient martial warrior. When his mind expanse reached 30%, he would probably be comparable to Brother Lei. Was he afraid he wouldn't be able to earn money? In fact, he already had a strong ability to earn money. First, I'll try soaking in the high-grade gene fluid to see the effect. Then, I'll cultivate the third level of the Nine Dragon Scripture. Lin Feng's plan was very clear. Spirit energy was indeed his trump card, but the Nine Dragon Scripture was also his other trump card. It was not inferior to spirit energy at all. Especially, the two could be combined to unleash a shocking power. But before that, I'll first learn the last two levels of the limitless sea of qi. Lin Feng smiled. To him, the limitless sea of qi was just the appetizer. The Nine Dragon Scripture was the real feast. However, what he really used was the limitless sea of qi. Naturally, this was the priority. Fourth level, Mystic Level 8. Lin Feng closed his eyes, feeling satisfied. Although it couldn't be compared to the Blood Battle Art's highest level, Mystic Level 4, it was enough for the time being. It was quite easy. Lin Feng spent less than an hour to comprehend the third level of the limitless sea of qi. And the fourth level, boom, Lin Feng fiercely threw out a punch. It was a simple punch, but the force of the punch was like the billowing waves of the sea, endless. The energy of heaven and earth in his body surged out, condensing into a solid image. Although he didn't use spirit energy, the power was almost comparable. Is this the hidden power of the Heart Sutra? Lin Feng was shocked as he withdrew his fist. No wonder it's called the limitless sea of qi. Wave after wave. Only when combined with the 7 spinning slash can it truly unleash the power of the limitless sea of qi. However, compared to the Nine Dragon Scripture, it's still too weak. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. If he didn't compare, he wouldn't know the power of the Nine Dragon Scripture. The first level of the Nine Dragon Scripture was superior to the third level of the limitless sea of qi. The second level of the Nine Dragon Scripture had completely left the fourth level of the limitless sea of qi behind. According to his estimation, the true power of the second level of the Nine Dragon Scripture even surpassed the highest level of the Blood Battle Art. In other words, it was above the Mystic Level 4. And this was only the second level of the Nine Dragon Scripture. I wonder the power of the third level of the Nine Dragon Scripture. How amazing will it be? Lin Feng was very curious. Chapter 80. It was hard to imagine. However, it made Lin Feng even more tempted. However, mastering the third level of the Nine Dragon Sutra was not something that could be done in a day. I didn't expect to spend nearly 10 hours on the fourth level. Lin Feng stood up from the advanced Geno Nutrition cabin. At this time, the nutrition cabin was already empty. The 3 bottles of advanced Geno fluid were all used up. Feeling the abundant Geno energy in his body, Lin Feng could not help but smile. He did not even feel hungry. The real difficulty of the fourth level of the boundless sea of qi was the hidden power. Only advanced Heart Sutras had this powerful ability. For example, the boundless sea of qi and Blood Battle Sutra. I wonder if the Nine Dragon Sutra also has hidden power. Lin Feng murmured as he walked out of the training room and turned on his crystal watch. Did Instructor Yumeng look for me? After going downstairs and returning to the living room, Lin Feng immediately turned on the microprojection video. Whoosh! A mature and charming figure suddenly appeared in front of him. You finally have time? A light panting sound was heard. Lin Feng looked over. On the micro-projection, the charming instructor Yu Ming appeared. Her tights were completely soaked in sweat, showing off her perfect figure. At this time, Instructor Yu Ming was doing strength training and did not relax at all. "I'm sorry, Instructor Yu." Lin Feng smiled apologetically and asked curiously, "But why do you train your body like an ancient martial artist?" The training method of a Geno warrior was to soak in Geno fluid. Naturally, one's body would be strengthened. Don't make a fuss. Many Geno warriors strengthen their body to make up for their weaknesses, Yu Ming replied. Moreover, strengthening one's body allows the body to absorb more Geno fluid faster. It's a two-way improvement. Why not? Lin Feng nodded. He was well aware of this point. Strengthening one's body could indeed speed up the absorption of Geno fluid. Phew! Yu Ming came down from the strength training machine and wiped the sweat off her forehead. She looked at Lin Feng with her beautiful eyes and smiled casually. "You've gained a lot this time, haven't you?" Lin Feng smiled. "Brother Lei took good care of me. That's because your appearance saved his face." Yu Ming picked up the cup of water, her breasts heaving slightly as she downed the cup in one gulp. Of course, there's also selfishness involved. After all, Lin Feng's entry into the floating elemental island is already set in stone. However, there's something I'm curious about. Lin Feng, how did you cultivate? I remember that your mind expanse wasn't even 10% during the entrance exam. Some fortuitous encounters, I guess. Lin Feng glossed over it and didn't explain too much. In fact, Senior Winepot had asked him this question before. Oh, Yu Ming smiled and did not pursue the matter further. After all, everyone had their own secrets. In a new world where spiritual energy was growing, there were all sorts of fortuitous encounters and coincidences. Sitting on the sofa, Yu Ming looked at Lin Feng. Back to the topic. Actually, I'm looking for you because I have something to discuss with you. Teacher Yu, please speak, Lin Feng said. He had always been grateful to mentor Yu Ming. Then, I won't beat around the bush, Yu Ming nodded. Her beautiful eyes flickered. Actually, I'm here to invite you to join the Adventurer Squadron. I wonder if you're willing? Adventurer Squadron? The so-called Adventurer Squadron consisted of 5 to 7 people. Lin Feng hesitated for a moment. He was planning to go to the ruined world. However, he was prepared to go there alone because that would give him more freedom. Don't worry. Other than you and me, there are 4 other people. 2 of them are 7-star adventurers. 1 is 6-star adventurer, and the last one is an 8-star adventurer. As if she could see Lin Feng's hesitation, Yu Ming smiled and said, "Moreover, you know the leader. Since you're familiar with each other, you'll definitely get along well." Lin Feng was shocked when he heard that. 2 7-star adventurers were already at the level of a beginner-level martial revered. The other one, 8-star, middle-level martial revered. Teacher Yu, if we go to the ruined world with such strength, would it be? Lin Feng frowned slightly. He didn't really like this kind of training that seemed to be for the sake of earning money. To him, money was important, but strength and challenges were equally important. Who said we're going to the ruined world? Yu Ming smiled sweetly. Lin Feng was instantly stunned. Not going to the ruined world? Bang! Bang! In an instant, Lin Feng's heartbeat quickened. His eyes shone brightly as he looked straight at Yu Ming. We're going to the wilderness this time. The wilderness. Lin Feng's understanding of the wilderness was limited to the books he had read. There were treasures everywhere. Elemental crystals, spirit fruits, herbs, rare metals, ores, and so on. It was also extremely dangerous. There were endless elemental beasts in the wilderness. Soldier-level beasts were not worth mentioning. Commander-level beasts could be seen everywhere. Beast King-level beasts were everywhere. The scariest thing was there were also legendary existences that surpassed the Beast King level. The area of the ruined world is less than 1/10 of the wilderness. Lin Feng searched for all kinds of information about the wilderness in the world of battle. In the previous era, the ruined world used to be a large, medium, and small city. The beasts were mostly docile poultry. Of course, there were also some strange pets like golden pythons and lizards. The most diverse types were in zoos and the like. What about the wilderness? It used to be a world of wild beasts. There were tropical rainforests, deserts, primeval forests, all kinds of wild beasts, insects, and even poisonous creatures. Lin Feng browsed carefully. He agreed to teacher Yu's invitation. He couldn't refuse in the first place. Needless to say, the wilderness. Lin Feng had always been looking forward to it. That was the real challenge for every strong person. Compared to entering the ruined world C02 alone and competing with a large group of adventurers who were attracted to rare earth elements, Lin Feng didn't have to think at all. He accepted the challenge of the wilderness and sharpened his strength in real life and death battles. He was unusually excited. "We'll leave in 3 days. I'm looking forward to it." The corners of Lin Feng's mouth curled up into a smile as he browsed through all sorts of information regarding the wilderness. Although there wasn't much information, it was better than not doing any homework. However, I wonder who Teacher Yu is talking about. Lin Feng was curious, but he was kept in suspense by Teacher Yu. The remaining 4 teammates were at least 6-star adventurers. Did he know anyone? 3 days was a short time. Lin Feng wouldn't waste it. After doing some homework about the wilderness, he left the world of battle and continued to cultivate. The more strength he had, the more ability he had to protect himself. The 3rd level of the 9 Dragon Scripture. It's at least Earth rank or above. Lin Feng thought to himself. According to his estimation, the 1st level of a 9 Dragon Scripture was about Yellow rank 1st grade, between the 3rd and 4th level of the boundless ocean of energy. The 2nd level was about Profound rank 3rd grade. With this increase, the 3rd level was at least Earth rank. Very scary. How powerful was an Earth rank Heart Sutra? Lin Feng hadn't seen it before, but he knew it must be very rare. Even a strong person like Brother Lei only cultivated the Blood Battle Art, a Profound rank 4th grade Heart Sutra. From 2 air currents to 3. Lin Feng muttered to himself. 3 main meridians, 3 air currents. With the first one as the main and the run and do meridians as auxiliary, it formed an extremely complicated airflow diagram. Although there was only one more air current, it was several times more complicated than the 2nd level. It felt impossible to control. He was mentally and physically exhausted. Bang! The energy dissipated. Failure. Chapter 81. 2 streams of air turned into 3 streams. Doing 2 things at once became 3 things at once. In addition, the speed of each level of the mantra increased, and the control of the energy of heaven and earth increased by 3 levels. And this time, Lin Feng had a special feeling when he was cultivating the energy of heaven and earth. It was very similar to when he was cultivating the boundless sea of qi. Hidden ability. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. Originally, it was already very difficult to cultivate the 3rd level of the 9 Dragons mantra, and now it was even more difficult. But the harder it was to cultivate, the more it meant, the more powerful it was. Failure. Failure again. Failure again. It was far more difficult than the 2nd level of the 9 Dragons mantra. That day, Lin Feng spent 3 hours to succeed for the first time, and 12 hours to grasp the essentials and successfully comprehend it. But this time, Lin Feng spent a full day and night before he barely succeeded and touched the barrier for the first time. What powerful energy of heaven and earth! Lin Feng was secretly amazed. The energy of heaven and earth in the 3 streams of air. Even the smallest stream was more than the 2 streams of the 2nd level. The 3 streams added together was about 8 times more than before. What did this mean? The 2nd level of a 9 Dragons mantra is about 6 times more powerful than the 1st level. The 3rd level, the increase is 8 times more powerful. Not only is it of the Earth rank, but it is in the upper middle rank of the Earth rank mantra. Lin Feng was surprised, but very satisfied. The energy of heaven and earth that could be controlled by the 4th level of the boundless sea of qi and the 3rd level of the 9 Dragons mantra was more than 10 times more powerful. Of course, the attack was not equal to the pure accumulation of the energy of heaven and earth, but 10 times the control of the energy of heaven and earth could at least increase the attack power by several times. If it was spirit energy, the power was even more unimaginable. If I can really cultivate the third level, plus the hidden ability. Lin Feng took a light breath, secretly shocked. The power of the mantra was very close to the legendary heaven rank. And this was only the third level of the Nine Dragons mantra. The Shi family. What moved out? Shi Zhong stared with his eyes wide open. Yes, Lin Feng and his family moved into the Sunset Dojo. I heard it is the special instructor's dormitory. LV Chung sighed. It was already impossible to make a move in the ordinary dormitory of the Sunset Dojo, not to mention the heavily guarded dormitory of the special class instructors. If a warrior attacked an ordinary person, the Ancient Martial Artist Alliance would definitely pursue the matter to the end. Not to mention, the Sunset Dojo itself was a huge entity. No matter how domineering the Shi family was, it was only in Jiaoyang District. No matter how bad the Sunset Martial Arts School was, even the 4 major martial arts schools would not dare to touch it. After all, it belonged to the country. The teacup in Shi Zhong's hand was crushed to pieces, and the tea flowed out from between his fists, reflecting his distorted face. Damn it! Shi Zhong stared with his eyes wide open, his fists trembling. Shi Zhong slumped on the leather sofa, his eyes dull. He, defeated, famous in one battle. The whole Sunset City was talking about Lin Feng's shocking battle. He defeated the famous super genius emperor at the age of 18. He attracted the attention of the 4 ancient warrior dojos, the military, and the First Bank of China. But when they learned that he was recruited by the Elemental Alliance, they just laughed it off. Level 1 geniuses were rare, but there would be one every year in every city. It was not enough to cause an earthquake in the Qinhuang region. In Sunset City, Bailuoye from the Nine Clouds sect, Huangshang from the Elite Crown Academy, and Song Lei from the military were all level 1 geniuses. There were a total of 21 cities in the Qinhuang region, including the Qinhuang City. The Qinhuang City alone was full of talents, and ancient Huaxia was not limited to just the Qinhuang region. Therefore, although the ratio of level 1 geniuses was not high, it was not rare. It was not worth fighting over. What could really make the 5 giants of ancient Huaxia crazy was the legendary super genius in the super alloy training room. Boom! The energy of heaven and earth moved. Lin Feng's body emitted a wave of heat. It was an inexplicable wave of heat. Again and again, the absorption of the energy of heaven and earth moved quickly into his dantian. This wave of heat was like 100 rivers flowing into the sea, making his blood boil. Suddenly, the wave of heat felt a strong suction force. Whoosh! It was sucked into the air in an instant. It disappeared. Soul of the earth? Lin Feng was startled. The soul of the earth, which was not interested in the energy of heaven and earth, absorbed this wave of heat for no reason. It's not simple. Lin Feng was deep in thought. The hidden power of the 9 Dragons scripture. Although he was only cultivating, he could already feel the power of this power. It could even absorb the soul of the earth. The soul of the earth, which had been slowly absorbing spiritual energy, was now nourished. The speed of its growth suddenly increased. Although it was only a little, it was already very good. That was the soul of the earth. It seems that the next stage is getting closer and closer. Lin Feng smiled slightly. Every stage of the soul of the earth's transformation had a huge increase in his strength, especially physical fitness. On April 8th, Lin Feng succeeded in cultivating for the first time. On April 9th, Lin Feng comprehended the 3rd stage of the 9 Dragon scripture. In the early morning of April 10th, Lin Feng could already absorb the energy of heaven and earth normally. 8 o'clock in the morning. The energy of heaven and earth was very active. Chi! The blue wolf saber drew a sharp arc. Lin Feng tightened his grip on the saber hilt. His eyes were like steel and iron, burning with determination. Lin Feng's aura was amazing. He activated the 3rd stage of the 9 Dragon scripture. Behind him, 3 giant dragons appeared. They were not illusions. Instead, they condensed into a towering reality. They seemed to be roaming with a majestic aura. The amazing energy of heaven and earth condensed in an instant. His dantian seemed to be emptied. Lin Feng's heart and saber blended together. The hot airflow appeared like the rising sun. Flying fish turn. There was no majestic, boundless ocean, only the tyrannical saber intent and the hot airflow. It was like the scorching sun. Condense all the power. Boom! The entire superalloy cultivation room trembled. It was like an earthquake. This saber was very similar to Lei Gang's majestic saber that day. Its power broke through the sky. It was a pity that the saber technique realm was still lacking. But, very good. Lin Feng smiled. His bright eyes looked at the superalloy wall in front of him. He put away the blue wolf saber and turned to leave. It's about time. Today was the day he had an appointment with Minter Moon. But before that, he had to go to a place first. His back view, with an astonishing fighting spirit, slowly disappeared from the superalloy cultivation room. Not far away, the superalloy wall flashed with a black light. It was originally as smooth as a mirror, but now there was a deep saber mark. The edge seemed to be burnt. The superalloy was a super metal that even an advanced martial venerable could not destroy. Chapter 82. First Hospital of Sunset City. Standing in front of the bed, Lin Feng looked at his best friend with guilt and warmth in his eyes. Wait for me, Ollie. The next time I come, it will be the day we go to Qin Imperial City to find Dr. Kai. After the operation, you will definitely recover. Definitely. With a determined look, Lin Feng left. He had asked Minter Yu and learned that Dr. Kai's consultation cost 100 gold coins. But Ollie had to be operated on if he wanted to wake up. The cost was at least 1,000 gold coins. Now he had enough ability. He might not be able to make enough money in the ruins, but in the wilderness, his income would increase tenfold. Sunset City Adventurers Bar. Here, it was not as lively as normal Adventurers Town. There were all kinds of people here, but it had its own unique charm. The tempting smell of wine, the beautiful sound of the piano, and all kinds of beautiful women. The price of a glass of wine could exceed 1 gold coin, as long as one could afford it. The beauties in the bar would be happy to accompany him. Only warriors with Adventurer's Medal 4 stars and above were qualified to enter here. Sir, please come in. A beauty in a low-cut dress bowed and smiled sweetly. Lin Feng nodded and entered. Just now, he saw an ancient warrior shove a gold coin into the beauty's chest and fondle it wantonly. But the beauty in the dress kept smiling, even if the smile was very forced. But so what? Money and power were universal in any era. Minter, you said room 16 is. Lin Feng looked around. The smell of wine was extravagant, the lights were dim, and the design of the bar was complicated. It was very difficult to find. Lin Feng walked slowly into the bar. He was not in a hurry. There were still 15 minutes before the appointed time. Adventurers Bar. Only adventurers with 4 stars and above can enter. This place also belongs to the Elemental Business Alliance. Lin Feng looked around curiously. Now he knew why Deputy Manager Su could raise his Adventurer's Medal to 4 stars that day in the Elemental Business Alliance. It was because everything in the Adventurer's Town belonged to the Elemental Business Alliance, one of the 5 giants of ancient Huaxia and one of the 3 largest financial groups in the world. Their businesses are all over ancient Huaxia and ancient India. The information about the Elemental Business Alliance appeared in Lin Feng's mind. He didn't know if he didn't read it, but he was shocked when he read it. The Elemental Business Alliance was more. It was much larger. 5 stars. 6 star. 5 stars. Lin Feng casually glanced at the warriors in the bar. 4 stars were everywhere, and most of them were 5 stars or above. There were also quite a few 7 stars. It could be said that the warriors here represented the top strength of Sunset City. In the Adventurers Bar, the medal level determined one's status. 4-star adventurers were not even qualified to book a table. Only 5-star adventurers could book a table, 6-star adventurers could book a booth, and 7-star adventurers and above could book a private room. Of course, the rooms were also divided into ordinary rooms, high-class rooms, and special rooms. Lin Feng. A surprised voice was heard. Lin Feng looked back and saw a familiar face. He couldn't help but smile. Brother Wang. The person was wearing silver Geno armor and boots, exuding an elegant aura. It was Professor Wang Kai, who had recruited him after the graduation exam. He didn't expect to meet him here. Lin Feng, you became a 4-star adventurer? Wang Kai walked over and glanced at the medal on Lin Feng's chest. He couldn't help but be surprised. How long had it been? Yes. Lin Feng smiled. Kai, won't you introduce us? Behind him, a few men wearing elemental armor came together and smiled. Such a young 4-star adventurer. Not bad. Lin Feng, they are my teammates. Wang Kai smiled. Birds of a feather flocked together. Instructor Wang Kai's teammates all looked very approachable. Hello. Lin Feng smiled and greeted them. Little guy, are you alone? One of the tall men smiled sincerely. Since you are Kai's friend, you are family. Are you interested in joining our team? Yes, Lin Feng. We are preparing to go to Ruin C02 to try our luck. Wang Kai smiled elegantly. What about you? Do you have a team? Yes. Lin Feng smiled. Yes. By the way, Brother Wang, where is Room 16? Lin Feng asked. Room 16? Wang Kai and the others were all shocked. The adventure bar had 5 special rooms, 15 high-class rooms, and 80 ordinary rooms. They were arranged in order of number. Room 16 was a high-class room. Suddenly, Lin Feng, a charming voice called out. Her charming voice attracted everyone's attention. Everyone's eyes focused on her. Her slim figure was extremely beautiful, like a work of art given by God. Her appearance suddenly made all the girls in the bar pale in comparison. Just their temperaments alone were worlds apart. Instructor you. Lin Feng smiled and raised his hand. He looked at Wang Kai and the others. Brother Wang, I will go first. Talk to you later. After saying goodbye to everyone, Lin Feng walked towards Yumeng. I knew you wouldn't be able to find the place. Yumeng smiled. No, I just met someone I know. Liang Guang and Flea are already in the room. Sister Bing will be here soon. Let's go in. Okay. Lin Feng and Yumeng's figures slowly disappeared. Wang Kai and the others looked at each other and swallowed their saliva. Liang Guang, Flea, they can't be the Ice Lion Adventurers? The tall man was shocked. Sunset City was only so big. Basically, all the famous warriors knew them, not to mention the rare 8-star adventurers. The Ice Lion Adventurers, the adventurers that ranked 8th in Sunset City. Captain, the sister Bing that Yumeng mentioned can't be the Ice Rose of the Cold Blade sect, right? Wang Kai's usual elegance was gone. Yes, there was a record of killing a high-level Beast King. The tall man nodded. She is one of the top 3 archers in Sunset City. She is the best partner with the Lion King. Unfortunately, the tall man sighed. 3 months ago, there was an accident. The Ice Lion Adventurers lost 3 capable warriors. What a pity. So, Yumeng and Lin Feng are new members? Wang Kai was shocked. Even though the Ice Lion Adventurers had lost a lot of strength, the backbone of the adventurers was still the same. Wang Kai wasn't surprised that Yumeng joined, but Lin Feng. Wouldn't it be strange if he joined? Lin Feng, the tall man murmured. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. I remember now. You should be the famous Lin Feng who defeated the Emperor a few days ago. He is a 7-star adventurer. No wonder he can join the Ice Lion Adventurers. He is that Lin Feng? Wang Kai was confused. His mind was in a mess, but he suddenly remembered that Lin Feng was wearing elemental armor and boots. It was the standard attire of an ancient warrior. A 7-star adventurer. Wang Kai couldn't believe it.